This is City News.
CIWW 1310 AM in Ottawa.
And CJET 1011 FM in Smiths Falls and the Valley. Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 1011 everywhere.
It is Friday, January 27th. Good morning. I am Damilola Unime. Right now in Ottawa, light snow, -10. In Smiths Falls, it is -9. And here's what's making news in Ottawa and the Valley. The city has released a statement on the settlement it reached with the Rideau Transit Group. This agreement ends the disputes between the two over the launch of LRT and subsequent problems. The settlement, according to the city, resolves several issues and resets the relationship. Now, this means the notice of default from the derailment in August 8th and September 19th of last year are now settled. RTG also commits to having sustained solutions to problem phase 1 encountered before opening the stage 2 east portion of the system. And the two sides have also resolved maintenance and performance issues. With the weather forecast for Ottawa and the Valley, here is City News weather specialist Denise Andriachi.
Some light snow and scattered flurries for Ottawa and Smiths Falls today and Saturday and Sunday too. We have periods of snow, in fact, Sunday that could bring us about 10 centimeters. So keeping an eye on the radar and just adjusting your driving for the next few days. We're still dealing with active weather, and then it gets a lot quieter. Monday, we're cloudy and cold, and then Tuesday through Friday next week, it's a very quiet weather pattern that is set up. Stable atmosphere, cold temperatures, but we'll have some sun and dry weather back in the forecast. Today's guaranteed high -5.
City News time, 10:02. This weekend will mark the one-year anniversary of the convoy protest rolling into Ottawa. Now, despite the time that has passed, businesses and citizens in Ottawa still feel the impact, and police are getting ready for a possible demonstration this weekend. City News Parliament's Hero reporter Cormac McSweeney has more.
Almost a year ago, horns blared and trucks filled the streets in front of Parliament Hill to begin an unprecedented 3-week occupation to protest COVID mandates and the Trudeau government. But businesses say they still haven't recovered from the losses and the black mark this left on downtown Ottawa. Mary Wong with the Centretown Community Association tells Omni trucks with flags still regularly drive through neighborhoods honking, and some residents still feel traumatized.
When they hear horns going off, they still get a reaction. There are people who's telling me they don't see the Canadian flag the same way.
Meanwhile, police warn they'll have a visible presence in the capital for possible protests this weekend with enough resources and tow trucks to make sure what happened last year doesn't happen again. The convoy led to the first ever use of the Federal Emergencies Act, and the deadline for the final report from the public inquiry is in 3 weeks. Cormac McSweeney, Parliament Hill.
And 5 fired Memphis police officers have been charged with a second-degree murder, aggravated kidnapping and other crimes in the killing of 29-year-old Terry Nichols. The black man died 3 days after a confrontation with now fired officers during a January 7th traffic stop that was caught on tape. Memphis police say video of the traffic stop will be released to the public after 6 p.m. this evening. Nichols' family and their lawyers say the footage shows officers savagely beating Nichols for 3 minutes. I am Damilola Unime. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Connecting you and your community. This is the Sam Laprade Show on City News
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, we made it, everybody. It is Friday, January the 27th. I'm Sam Laprade. You'll be with me for the next 3 hours and lots of great guests coming your way. We're going to talk about a number of subjects that you're probably thinking about. So we're going to bring all that great news to you today. We want to start and kick off our show today with City Councillor Tim Tierney from Beacon Hill, Searville. Good morning, Councillor.
Good morning, Sam.
There's been lots of news out of City Hall this week. It's been a busy one. Is it good to be back in the action, Councillor?
I love it. I love it, Sam. You know City Hall for the last few years, pretty much primarily everything's been a Zoom interface and no face-to-face interaction. Well, I was quite happy to be back in the Champlain Room, which is our miniature version of the council chambers with colleagues. And we had one of the best meetings I think I've ever chaired as a transportation committee chair, just because of that personal interaction, the ability to talk to each other. It was a really good meeting.
That's really great to hear, and we know there's lots of items to talk about this morning. Let's talk a little bit first about Wellington Street. Give us an update here. This has been obviously, we're talking about the 1 year milestone of the so-called Freedom Convoy. If you can believe it, it's been a year. But what are we talking about in terms of Wellington Street?
Well, what we debated and discussed, we had some delegations come in. In a nutshell, at the end of last year, December 2022, we had a motion that was previous to keep the street closed. That motion expired, and a lot of constituents, along with colleagues, were basically saying, okay, what do we do now? Typically, it wouldn't be as much of a pressing issue as it is, except for the federal government has sent their employees back to work. And we've noticed, and this was brought up by our traffic specialist yesterday, specifically over the last 2 weeks, traffic patterns have increased dramatically, specifically between like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday in the downtown area, so much so that there's backups happening on the Potage Bridge now. So there's a lot that went into this discussion. Of course, I think we've spoken about the fact that with Wellington closed, and let's be honest, it's not closed. It's not secured. There's cars on there now. So the security argument's out the window. What it is kind of like a big Tetris puzzle where you can get through there, but it doesn't allow for even flow. It looks ugly, and we have to get something done with it. So we're opening the street back up sometime after March 1st. It could be mid-March, and we're hoping to see those traffic patterns improve.
Mm-hmm. And were you happy with this decision, Councillor?
Absolutely. It's, you know what? When you have a unanimous decision, 12-0, that is a pretty telling fact that we have to do something with Wellington. And it doesn't mean that that's the end of it. Of course, a big part of the problem is the federal government has a big role in this. And like you said, it is the anniversary. It's been a year like this. And up till now, it's primarily been crickets. Things haven't been done. So, having the ability to be able to get the federal government to the table. I mean, it's been pretty quiet up till now. Now they recognize, oh, wait a minute, the city, they own that street and they're going to open it back up. We want to do something with it. Well, let's get the conversations going and figure out exactly what that is.
Are you disappointed that it's taken the federal government a long time to even sort of have conversations about this? Or maybe I'm making an assumption and there have been conversations, but yet no action?
You know what? I think it's a little column A, column B. I think there has been some, cursory discussion, but nothing concrete, nothing that's escalating this. And I was actually on another media outlet this morning with MP Yasser Naqvi. And while we disagree on some items, we agree something has to be done. And he agrees that this is certainly going to escalate things and move things quicker than it would have been if we would have just simply said, okay, the street's closed, it looks ugly. There's no good in the way it sits right now. So I think there's a silver lining. This is going to speed a lot of things up.
It's so interesting because, of course, we think about it from so many different perspectives. Of course, the opportunity for businesses to feel like there's some normalcy down there, and for residents, as you mentioned, and for people coming to work. Let's talk a little bit about how we proceed after March 1st. Where does that all land?
Yeah, so, of course, we're going to work with our Ottawa Police Service as well as emergency services to make sure that we consult with them on the opening and how it looks. And in the future, it could look like during the work week, the time when we need that stretch open, because, again, right now you punch it into Google, it tells you to go through Quebec to get to the other side of the city now. That's how much of a pinch point it is. It opens up, we have our work days during the week where we see traffic flows, but during the weekend, we might actually close it for special events, food truck rallies or hockey games on the street. So it's we're not opening just for the sake of opening. We're going to do some stuff with the street, and I think that's a big important part why even the ward councillor, Ariel Troster, supported this so strongly.
Mm-hmm. We heard this morning, Councillor Tierney, that there's been a decision between the Rideau Transit Group and the City of Ottawa. The statement we've received, this is a quote, City of Ottawa and Rideau Transit Group announce agreement to resolve ongoing disputes, reset the relationship, and a plan to move forward to deliver safe and reliable train service to the people of Ottawa. How do you feel about this statement?
Well, I'm going to exercise a little caution, Sam, only because, as you know, we were in that city council meeting that was quite lengthy. There was quite a bit of detail. I've never seen a presentation that long and so many questions from my colleagues as well in an in-camera session, so a private session to discuss the legal, what's involved. So I know that we were waiting for the release to come out to start talking about it, but I'll just say that there's a lot there. It's not like basically, okay, everyone, let's hug and get going. There's a lot of detail in between, and it actually satisfied council to proceed with this. So I actually want to talk so much more about it, but I got to use caution until I'm briefed on what I can exactly say and what I can't say, but I'm feeling very positive and why we all supported it.
It's very fair. Thank you so much for that. And can we talk a little buses? How are you feeling about the electric buses, Councillor Tierney?
Well, we're in the middle of, I think, like a 50 PowerPoint slide deck of the e-buses right now. I sit on the Transit Commission. I stepped out for this briefing because I love Sam Laprade and I love your show. But we're going through the checks and balances right now. There are some questions about reliability, and they're going to have to answer some of those questions. So we are retrying a previous council's decision, and there's going to be a lot of questions related to, obviously, safety, production, and the ability for them to operate in the streets. And I look forward to the discussion that's going to take place over the next 2 hours at City Hall. Absolutely.
And I appreciate you stepping out of that, Councillor Tierney. Thank you so much for joining us today. Tim Tierney, of course, City Councillor for Beacon Hill, Searville. We'll let you get back in there, Tim.
Thanks so much.
Thanks so much. I appreciate his time today. And we know that councillors and the mayor, juggle a lot of things throughout the day. And the fact they would step out just for a couple of minutes and spend time with us is very appreciated. Listen, a big show for you today. We're going to speak with Carolyn Stewart, Executive Director of Feed Ontario, when we come back. Here's why this story is really important. We know that food insecurity in this city is rising by the day. I had a chance the other day to spend some time with Rachel Wilson, the CEO of the Ottawa Food Bank, and she said, Sam, it is unbelievable how much has changed over the last 3 or 4 years in this city. Think about it for a second. The Ottawa Food Bank and all the member agencies in this region are feeding on a monthly basis 40,000 people. Now, to put that in perspective, that is like filling Canadian Tire Centre twice. Picture yourself sitting there watching a hockey game or a concert and look around. Every single one of those seats would be filled twice with the amount of people in this community looking for help. So we have some good news we're going to share with you in a little bit in regards to the food bank, in regards to other food agencies in this city as well. So that's positive. We're also going to spend some time today with Fareed Khan. We know the Quebec City mosque shooting, the milestone of that is coming up on this Sunday. We wanted to speak with Fareed Khan, the founder of Canadians United Against Hate, about that particular issue. Julie Finley is also going to join us today. She's going to talk to us about something happening in our city that you may want to get involved with. Listen, we have lots for you. We don't want you to go anywhere. Lock it in to City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
Salut tout le monde, je m'appelle Jessie Lindsay. Venez écouter mon spectacle Encore Ottawa 3 sur Rogers TV cette semaine. Hi everybody, come listen to my Encore Ottawa 3 show on Rogers TV this week. I hope you enjoy it.
I did it. I need it.
A hero gave it.
And I am alive.
As an organ donor, you can save up to 8 lives and enhance the lives of 75 others. Please go to our website. Pledge a gift of life. You'll be glad you did.
Welcome to the traditional, ancestral, unceded territory of the Stalo people. The Stalo are people of the river. I'm so thankful for the courage and resiliency of our ancestors who lived on this land since time immemorial. Each of us have gifts from the Creator, and our Creator has a plan and purpose to be fulfilled in our territory. As we embrace our traditional teachings, we can lead the next generation into the fullness of what our Creator designed. Our shared history reveals a broken relationship, but as all Canadians commit to hear truth, acknowledge injustice, we can learn to walk in our traditional way, Letsamot, with a good heart and a good mind. Then all of our lives will be enriched. Kwasai.
Join me for Season 3 of Paula Roy's Favorite Foods. Whew, that was a lot. I think I need a nap.
Laprade Show continues on City News.
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, it's no surprise if you visited a grocery store anytime soon. There's been so many challenges with food insecurity, pricing in terms of food, inflation, the interest rate hike. It went up another 25 basis points this week. We know it's been challenging on so many families. We wanted to spend some time today with Carolyn Stewart, Executive Director of Feed Ontario. Hi, Carolyn.
Hey, good morning.
Carolyn, tell me a little bit about Feed Ontario.
Yeah, Feed Ontario is the provincial representative for food banking here in the province, and we support a network of over 140 direct member food banks, over 1,100 affiliate agencies. Really, we work together to help support that emergency need in communities across the province.
And I can only imagine that you've seen the need grow during this pandemic. Give us a sense of what you're seeing.
Yeah, unfortunately, numbers are at an all-time high. Last year, our food banks in the network were accessed by almost 600,000 people who visited more than 4.3 million times. This is actually an increase of more than 15% in more people and 42% more in visits since pre-pandemic levels. And, you know, what's more is that we've actually also seen a 64% increase in first-time visitors since before the pandemic. So for us, that really points to the lack of quality employment opportunities here in Ontario and how hard things are getting for everybody.
Mm-hmm. How are you feeling about 2023? I know we're just about a month in, Carolyn, but you know it's not looking great in terms of what's coming down the pipe. We know we're trying to hold that recession at bay, but there's a lot of negativity about 2023.
Yeah, you know, food bank use here in the province has been on the rise for 6 straight years as we've seen the financial health of Ontarians decline. And the fact that so many people are relying on emergency food support to get by should really be worrying everybody. We were really never developed as a long-term solution. You know, we were in the 80s, we were developed as a short-term response, but because we're now seeing more and more Ontarians who are unable to afford their most basic necessities, you know, food banks are being asked to step up to fill that need. And it's incredibly concerning, and it should be concerning to everyone.
And we know it takes a lot of partners. It really does take everybody to pitch in, individual donations, corporate donations. Speak to me a little bit about the $299,000 donation that has been received.
Yeah, we could not do what we do here in Ontario without the support of generous partners, and our partner Metro is our largest in the province, has been a committed partner for a very, very long time. We were fortunate that over the holidays they ran a Healthy Together campaign where they collected money at the cash, and it's made a significant impact, and that will allow food banks in the region to be able to access more food for and really address the need that's growing in their communities. But beyond that, Metro, they also run their One More Bite program year round, which is making sure that food that's close to date is getting diverted to local food banks and getting into the homes of people that need it in time to access fresh, healthy food. So for us, those are the kind of partnerships we're always looking for, and they really help to make sure we can continue to meet this emergency demand.
And how will that impact here in the capital area?
In terms of support, I'm sure you've heard our colleagues at the Ottawa Food Banks and their affiliate agencies, support both in food and funds is necessary to continue to meet the demand, and it's so essential, especially with growing numbers. And just as they run into 2023, as you mentioned, there's a lot of uncertainty this year in terms of, the cost of food going up, both for food banks who are accessing food and for individuals. And donations are actually on a decline overall. And so, as I said, these donations are so essential to make sure that they can continue to keep food bank shelves stocked and continue to meet the demand of their communities.
And Carolyn, you mentioned, the program that, really diverts food from landfills. We know from Second Harvest, they put out a lot of research in terms of the number of of people that are wasting food, unfortunately, right? You might be throwing something out, but your neighbor is in desperate need, and diverting any of that food is so essential. Talk to us a little bit about how each and every one of us can help there as well.
Yeah, I think really these programs are so essential because they're helping to, one, obviously reducing food waste is a great benefit, but for us it's making sure that food that may otherwise be accessible is now being provided to those who may not be able to access it on a normal basis. Our One More Bite program with Metro is all fresh food, so produce, dairy, protein, all of those wonderful things, and it's getting into food banks safely in time to get to people's homes, and for us, it's really about making sure, unfortunately, food insecurity isn't actually a food issue. It's actually an income issue. And so for us, it's really, as an organization, we consistently also advocate for policy recommendations for change. But in the meantime, until we see those policy changes that can help make sure that everyone can afford to buy what they need for themselves. These programs help to make sure that we can access the food that we need for individuals, both perishable and non-perishable, and everything that you would want to see in your homes. We're helping to make sure that those who visit our services also have access.
Mm-hmm. And Carolyn, whenever I speak about a food bank and the need, I always want to make sure people know if they're listening, there's no shame as well of knocking on the door of a food bank, right? I mean, this is something that, doesn't have to be someone's entire story. It can be the page. It can be a one-time need to sort of get through a tough period after the holidays. So let's talk a little bit about, the process for people that may have to access a food bank.
Yeah, I think it's always difficult to ask anybody for help, but we want Ontarians to know that's why we exist, to help make sure that if potentially you've fallen on hard times or you need to fill a gap, that's why we exist. The only requirement to access a Feed Ontario member affiliate agency is need. If you're in need of support, there won't be judgment, and you need to just come in and we can assist you. And remember that food is just one service that food banks provide. They actually provide a myriad of other services as well, employment skills training in some cases, child-focused programming, resume building workshops, dental or free healthcare clinics, all sorts of that. And they also do a number of referrals to a number of other wonderful social service agencies in the community. And so they're there to assist you, and please reach out if you are in need, because that's why we're here to help.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much for that. And I have to ask, how are you and your team doing, Carolyn? I know it hasn't been easy on people that are working in the sector.
Yeah, I think we always say that food bankers are salt of the earth folks. They're the best best people around, and really are committed and passionate individuals about helping their community. And for us, it is, everyone I think is quite stressed and tired, but that's, pandemic, I think that's a general sentiment across Ontario right now. But for us, it's really about that passion and commitment that's continuing to drive us forward, and knowing how essential our support is to people in need. And so we're going to continue to remain hopeful that the provincial government is listening to our policy recommendations and some of the advocacy work that we're doing to help ultimately reduce the need for our services here in the province.
Thank you so much, Carolyn, for sharing the good news today. The Ottawa Food Bank receiving $299,000 in donations from Metro and Food Basics. Carolyn Stewart, Executive Director of Feed Ontario, sharing that news today. Thank you, Carolyn.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
We have a very busy show for you today, as mentioned. When we come back, we're going to speak with Fareed Khan. We're going to be speaking about the milestone, the Quebec City Mosque shooting anniversary. It's such a tragic day in our country. We wanted to also speak with Noah Shack, Vice President of the Center for Israel and Jewish Affairs, about the Holocaust Remembrance Day. Stay with us here on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Hello, my name is Sean Duhame. And this is the Sean Duhame Trio. I hope you enjoy it.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
When an impaired driver killed my brother DJ, some people used the A word. They called it an accident, but it wasn't. An accident implies that no one was at fault. But when someone impaired by alcohol and/or drugs chooses to drive, they're fully responsible for the crash that can result. So please, for the memory of my brother DJ and the thousands of families whose lives have been shattered by impaired drivers, let's drop the A word.
A crash caused by impaired driving is not an accident.
At Celebrate Ottawa, we love showing you something a little different. We showcase remarkable people highlighting the city's diversity in arts, culture, sports, and nature. We will show you features that prove Ottawa is a vibrant and exciting city. We'll entertain you and we'll even teach you new things. Join me, your host, Lila Grine, as we explore and celebrate Ottawa.
Bum, 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 bum. 20 bucks. 20 bucks. We're on the line for 20 bucks.
On the next episode of Simply Cooking by Chef, I'm joined by my friend Neil from Ottawa Valley Meats. Tune in to see what we're grilling up on the barbecue.
Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 101.1 everywhere.
It is Friday, January 27. Good morning. I am Damilola Unime. Right now in Ottawa, light snow, -10. In Smiths Falls, it is -8. And here's what's making news this hour. The City of Ottawa has released a statement on its settlement with Rideau Transit Group. The agreement between both parties ends their disputes over the launch of the LRT and subsequent problems. The settlement, according to the city, resolves several issues and resets their relationship. Now, this means the notices to default from the derailment on August 8th and September 19th last year are also settled. RTG says it would also commit to having sustained solutions to problems phase 1 of the LRT faced before opening stage 2 of the system. Now, both sides have also resolved maintenance and performance issues. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and the leader of the opposition will speak this morning at a ceremony to commemorate Holocaust Remembrance Day. It's the 78th anniversary of the liberation of the Auschwitz concentration camp, which was run by the Nazis during World War II. The global remembrance today is held for the 6 million Jews murdered in Holocaust camps. The event in the city is scheduled for 11 a.m. at the National Holocaust Monument at Wellington and Booth. Ontario's Chief Medical Officer of Health says more people are now eligible for PCR testing for COVID-19. Dr. Karen Moore says anyone 18 and older qualifies for testing if it has been at least 6 months since their last COVID-19 shot or infection. He says anyone 18 and older who is unvaccinated also qualifies for PCR testing. Previously, the only people under 60 who are eligible were people who were immunocompromised or who had risk conditions and fewer than 3 vaccine doses. City News Time is 10:31. I am Damilola Unime. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Thank you for spending time with us here on City News. I'm Sam Laprade. We know that there's a grim anniversary on January the 29th. The Quebec City mosque shooting was an attack by a single gunman on the evening of January 29th, 2017 at the Islamic Cultural Center of Quebec City, a mosque in the Sainte-Foy neighborhood of Quebec City. It was such a devastating time. 6 people lost their lives. We wanted to remember this day and hopefully some lessons out of it today from Fareed Khan, founder of Canadians United Against Hate. Hello, Fareed.
Good morning.
It's hard to believe, 2017, everything that's happened between that time and now, but the pain of that particular incident certainly is still strong. Fareed, how will you, really mark this milestone on the 29th of January?
Well, for me personally as a Muslim, I think in some ways I mark it every day because beside the shooting in the Quebec City Mosque in 2017, we had a Muslim volunteer stabbed outside a mosque in Toronto in September 2020, and then we had the murder of the Afzal family in London in June 2021. But specifically for this coming Sunday, Canadians United Against Hate is organizing a public vigil at the Human Rights Monument downtown on Elgin Street. And we are going to remember the names of those who were killed and remember their families. And this is an interfaith event where the various faith communities will come together to join in solidarity with each other to not only oppose Islamophobia, but oppose all forms of hate.
Mm-hmm. It just seems to me that we speak about hate. This has been going on obviously a very long time. In the last number of years, there seems to be more attention to this in terms of solutions. Are you finding that, or is it just my perspective?
Well, there's the intent to implement solutions. We hear a lot of politicians stand up in front of microphones and cameras and talk about fighting hate. We have some action that seems to be significant, but in reality, in my view, is not. clearly, this has galvanized the public. We've seen acts of hate directed not only at Muslims, but at other minority communities. We've seen it against black people, against Indigenous people, against the LGBTQ2 community. And every time an incident happens, there is public attention and media attention on it. There are politicians standing in front of microphones. But when it comes to actually doing the hard work necessary, not only is it slow in coming, but when announcements are made about programs or funding or so forth, it is not adequate to the job that needs to be done.
Do you feel like you have allies, Fareed?
Yeah, so there's definitely allies. I think the broad majority of the public feel that this is a poison in our society that we need to deal with, that white supremacy, racism, Islamophobia, anti-Semitism are clearly problems, and they are increasing, but it needs an all-of-government approach. Federal government, provincial governments, and municipal governments working together to address it in the same way we addressed the pandemic, COVID-19 pandemic. This is not something that is going away, and I believe that the politicians who are saying that they are behind communities to address these issues, yeah, I mean, it's nice to have those words, but there needs to be decisive, concrete action with adequate funding. And I'll give you an example. Last year, during the federal budget, the federal government committed funds to fight hate as part of their national anti-hate strategy. It was $84 million over 4 years. Now, that's like $21 million a year. I'm sorry, but that's just not adequate to the problem at hand. And the heavy lifting is left up to small community and not-for-profit organizations who don't have the capacity to lead on this at a national level.
Let me ask you, when you think about Bill 21, Quebec's Bill 21, what kind of damage has that bill done?
Oh, it's done extreme damage. There was while the bill is intended to target all racialized minorities, Muslims, Jews, and Sikhs, and people who are visibly display their faith. There was a poll done just before the bill was passed in June 2019, and there was a story published in the Montreal Gazette which said that the bill was founded on anti-Muslim prejudice. It was meant specifically to target Muslims, but the government decided, hey, you know what, we can't get away with doing it against just one community, so we'll do it against all communities. And it has emboldened elements within Quebec society, and not only in Quebec, but other parts of Canada, to say, yeah, we need to target these communities, and specifically Muslims who are visible. And the biggest target of this anti-Muslim hate have been hijab-wearing Muslim women who have been harassed, who have been attacked, who have been assaulted, who have been verbally abused, publicly, and this is a racist piece of legislation, and frankly, it put in place by a racist government who only care about white francophones and their interests.
It must be very, very challenging for people living in Quebec and living every day like that. Fareed, I can't even imagine that.
Well, I think it's challenging most times to be different in Quebec, more so if you happen to be brown or black or Muslim or Sikh, or visibly Jewish. Just with respect to the anniversary and the 6 men who were killed, not only was this a tragedy, for the Muslim community and their families, but even in death, they were victims of Islamophobia because there were no Muslim cemeteries within the Quebec City vicinity where they could be buried because municipal governments had not permitted the Muslim community to establish a cemetery. And so a number of them had to be buried in their countries of origin. Now imagine being a family member wanting to go and pay respects to your loved one who's died, and you're not able to do it because the government didn't allow you to have a place where you could bury your dead.
I had no idea, Fareed. I had no idea.
Yeah, I mean that's the level of racism and bigotry that specifically Muslims are facing in Quebec. And frankly, we see it happening in other parts of the country. Certainly in Alberta, there have been multiple incidents of hijab-wearing Muslim women, and particularly black Muslim women, who've been attacked on the streets in Calgary and Edmonton. And yet the politicians stand up and say, well, this is unacceptable, this is not Alberta. But, frankly, to those politicians who say this is not us, no, this is us, because it's happening, and it's happening repeatedly. Mm-hmm. And I keep coming back to the point that when is that decisive, aggressive action going to be taken to address all forms of hate? Because this weekend we are remembering Muslims who were attacked, but there are other communities being attacked as well. I mean, being black, we're hearing the story out of the States in Memphis about a black man who was attacked and beaten by police. But, we don't hear those stories too often in Canada, but if you are a black man in one of Canada's urban centers, you're always afraid when a police car drives by, or if you're driving, you're stopped by police. So we have that. We have the LGBTQ2 community who are subjected to hate. So this is something that needs to be addressed on a broad societal level, and governments are talking about it, but they're not moving fast enough, and they're not putting the funds behind it. And I'll give you an example. Back in 2021, after the Islamophobia Summit, the government made a commitment to appoint a special representative to combat Islamophobia. It took more than a year and a half for them to finally get the job done, and the announcement was made yesterday. And in the meantime, there have been continued to be attacks against Muslims. And so why did it take so long? And that's one of the points I'm making, is that governments, whether it's federal government or provincial governments, are slow to move on this. And I'm sorry, but that's unacceptable. Mm-hmm.
What was the tipping point, or was it always bubbling under the surface? Was there a tipping point? I mean, I don't, I think about 9/11, but I want you to help me out here. Was that a tipping point?
Well, we've obviously always had racism in our society, and Islamophobia has been around since before 9/11. My first personal experience with it was after the Gulf War. I was living in Toronto at the time, and I was subjected to verbal abuse by someone, go back home, go back where you came from, type of thing. But it was after 9/11 that it exploded, and it was pushed not only by media narratives, but by governments and politicians who vilified Muslims. And both the liberal and conservative governments since 9/11 have blood on their hands, because it is because of the policies that they put in place where they delegitimized, stigmatized Muslims, that you had this rising societal prejudice against Muslims. And we repeatedly had incidents in the media. I mean, remember the so-called 9/11, or the 9/11 mosque, that controversy in New York City. Mm-hmm. Every time there was an attack that involved Muslims as perpetrators, it was all Muslims were blamed. Why aren't you speaking out against this, when in fact Muslims were speaking out against the hijacking of their faith by extremists? And then you have right-wing politicians and right-wing media voices who amplified. And certainly in Quebec, there was the so-called Radio Poubelle, which, our talk radio in Quebec, which used Muslims as scapegoats for the problems of Quebec society. And then you had Donald Trump come along and basically legitimize public hate against Muslims, and the perpetrator of the mosque shooting had consumed copious amounts of white supremacist propaganda online before he decided to go and kill Muslims while they were praying. So this is not something that happened overnight. It was a progression, and it started before 9/11, but 9/11 was the catalyst that led to the dominoes falling. And we had Quebec City in 2017. We had the Toronto mosque stabbing in 2020, and then we had the Afzal family murder in June 2021. And Muslims are the only faith community in this country who have been the victims of deadly hate-motivated violence among all the faith communities, and certainly in my lifetime, I don't know if it ever happened before that.
Thank you for your time today, and we'll be thinking about the Muslim community on January the 29th as you mark that grim milestone. 6 years.
Thank you,
so much.
And I hope that if people are interested, they can join us at 6 p.m. on Sunday at the Human Rights Monument in downtown Ottawa for our interfaith vigil.
Thank you so much. Fareed Khan spending time with us today, founder of Canadians United Against Hate. Stay with us here on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
Salut tout le monde, je m'appelle Jessie Lindsay. Venez écouter mon spectacle Encore Ottawa 3 sur Rogers TV cette semaine. Hi everybody, come listen to my Encore Ottawa 3 show on Rogers TV this week. I hope you enjoy it.
On Friday's Daytime Ottawa fitness expert, Tony Greco joining me on the show, so I better start my stretching now because I'm sure he's going to be putting me through a workout. But we're also going to talk to him why he decided to rebrand. Also tell you about a new local business. It is called Neverly Made. We'll give you all the details on what they offer. And we'll tell you about a brand new charity that's just started here in Ottawa. All that and more on Friday's Daytime Ottawa.
Hi, I'm Meg from AIM Fitness, and I'm here with my buddy Fit Finley. Join us every week for Fit Over 50. We'll take you through some low-impact and high-intensity workouts designed to improve your strength and your balance. All you'll need is a resistance band, some light hand weights, and also your water bottle and a sturdy chair. Tune in right here on Rogers TV and let us be part of your weekly routine.
Join me for Season 3 of Paula Roy's Favorite Foods. Whew, that was a lot. I think I need a nap.
continues on City News.
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Thank you so much for spending time with us on City News. I'm Sam Laprade. We have a really important conversation today with Noah Shack, Vice President of the Center for Israel and Jewish Affairs. Hi, Noah.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
Noah, talk to me a little bit about Holocaust Remembrance Day and how you're marking this day.
Well, Holocaust Remembrance Day was established by the United Nations to have a focal point on the calendar where we can all pause, remember the atrocities of the Holocaust, honor the memory of the victims, and the legacy of those who survived. And here we're marking it both with memory and with honor for those who came to Canada and built a new life for themselves from the ashes, and contributing so much to our country here. It's a really important opportunity for everyone to pause and reflect on the lessons as well about where hate can lead, and how we can guard against rising hate in our own society, to make sure that the concept of never again rings true and isn't just hollow words.
Well, I think this past year, Noah, we've seen so much discussion about the Holocaust and people, denying the Holocaust, those horrific voices that are really, playing havoc with history, if you will. How important do you think this year's day is?
Oh, it's absolutely crucial. I think, along with initiatives like on Ontario's decision to make Holocaust education mandatory in elementary school, we need people to take the lessons of the past seriously, because we're seeing not just Holocaust denial and distortion and a rise in neo-Nazi activity and ideology. We're also seeing a rise in anti-Semitism generally across the board. In Canada, we saw a year-over-year increase 47%, according to Statistics Canada, in anti-Semitic hate crimes. And that translates into more than one anti-Semitic hate crime being reported to police every single day. More than 9 hate crimes targeting Jewish people in Canada every single week. That's something that should disturb us all and motivate us to educate ourselves to understand what's going on, because so much of this rise isn't due to there being more bad people out there. It's because of ignorance, and ignorance is fertile ground for those who want to spread hate.
Well, and I think what I find, really disturbing, and I'm not from the Jewish faith, but, I've spoke with Dr. Nili Kaplan-Murth and what she's been through, and then we see what happened at a West End school in terms of youth being charged with hate crimes and anti-Semitism. I mean, I just can't get my mind wrapped around, and I can't even imagine how you feel about it, that this is 2023, and we're still having these conversations. Where do you think this is coming from? I mean, I know we've talked about some celebrities that have shared some horrific sort of thoughts on their behalf, but where's it coming from? Where's the core of this?
Well, I think first it's important to note that hate is on the rise in general in Canada, and that's a phenomenon that anti-Semitism, of course, is symptomatic of. And we've seen throughout history, sadly and tragically, that when there are times of social strife, when there are times of economic downturn, when there are serious challenges that stress societies, Jews are often used as a scapegoat. Anti-Semitism comes out as an organizing way of thinking that blames Jews for the problems. This has happened in previous pandemics throughout history. It's happened during previous economic crises, and we have to be on guard as a society that we pay attention to this, that we recognize it, that we stand against it, raise our voices together against the hatred of Jewish people here in Canada, because what starts with the Jews doesn't end with the Jews, and it's a symptom of a problem in our society that we really need to come together to fix.
Ironically, I just had a conversation with Fareed Khan, the founder of Canadians United Against Hate, and of course, January 29th marks the 6th anniversary of the Quebec City mosque shooting, and Fareed was saying the same thing. He was saying to me, Sam, listen, yes, of course, Muslims are facing this, but he referenced the Jewish community as well, and other communities that are facing hate. It just, I don't know if it's just, like you mentioned, all of the different sort of influences that are coming, but it just seems like young people seem to be a part of this, and it seems to be a lot of young males in terms of sort of being on the internet and finding this stuff and then spewing it in the world. It just seems like there's a lot of youth involved.
It's an excellent point, and I think that during the pandemic, of course, we were spending more and more of our time online. Our communities shifted from being in-person physical communities to virtual communities, and that was a lifeline in many ways that we had that opportunity. And so I don't want to say that there's nothing good that comes from some of these electronic social media platforms, but at the same time, as they can create communities for good, they also create communities for bad. And it's really important that we educate our youth about some of the dangers that are lurking out there, some of the ways in which social media algorithms can lead them towards toxic hate, and how to recognize it, to avoid it, and to stand against it, report it, and help be part of the solution instead of unwittingly getting sucked into being part of the problem. Mm-hmm. And we've developed, with support of the Ontario government, the Ministry of Education, a resource to help parents actually better understand how the mechanisms of hate work online, and people can go and check it out at unlearnit.ca, where there is work being done both in community and by government to make sure that these important lessons are being learned, that the resources are out there that do exist to help people recognize the problem and be part of the solution.
I really appreciate you spending time. I know it's a busy day. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me and for marking it.
Noah Shack joining us today, Vice President of the Center for Israel and Jewish Affairs. Appreciate his time today marking Holocaust Remembrance Day. When we come back, we're going to have a conversation with Laura Shantz from Ottawa Transit Riders. We're going to be talking about some of that information that came down today, that there has been an agreement between the City of Ottawa and RTG, Rideau Transit Group. We're going to get Laura's thoughts on that. Stay with us on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Hello, my name is Sean Duhame. And this is the Sean Duhame Trio. I hope you enjoyed.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
The regulars, the guys who keep this place in business. Last week, they had something to celebrate. Jason had just finished university. So they toasted his profs, his TAs, his old roommates. Well, they toasted just about everyone. But I worry about and take care of my guys. So even when I know they're not driving, sometimes that means bringing them a little surprise. And then they had a drink to me.
Brought to you by Smart Serve Ontario and Arrive Alive, Drive Sober.
Hey folks, it's me, Giovanni Patini, the host of the RTV quiz show, the hottest show on television. It's the hilarious quiz show where you, the viewers, play for valuable non-existent prizes. It's got great trivia, fun facts, and a lot of laughs, all blended together in a perfect cocktail of edutainment. So join us Wednesdays at 7:30 right here on Rogers TV. Nice.
Bum, 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 bum. $20. $20. We're on the line for $20.
On the next episode of Simply Cooking by Chef, I'm joined by my friend Neil from Ottawa Valley Meats. Tune in to see what we're grilling up on the barbecue.
1310 AM in Ottawa.
And CJET 1011 FM in Smiths Falls and the Valley. Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 1011 everywhere.
It is Friday, January 27th. Good morning. I am Damilola Unime. Right now in Ottawa, it is -10. In Smiths Falls, it is -8. And here's what's making news in Ottawa and the Valley. The City of Ottawa and Rideau Transit Group have released a joint statement on their out-of-court settlement. City News reporter Chris Curris with more.
The statement released this morning promises that ongoing disputes are resolved. The relationship between the two parties will be reset, and they'll move forward together to deliver a safe and reliable transit service to the people of Ottawa. It says it comes as part of the recommendations from the public inquiry report, which described the relationship as acrimonious and needing to be repaired. The settlement agreement resolves the notice of default that arose following 2 derailments in the summer of 2021 and several disputes regarding RTG's performance during the maintenance phase and the city's administration of the contract. Both had sued the other for over $100 million. Terms of the settlement were not disclosed. Chris Curry's City News.
With the weather forecast for Ottawa and the Valley, here is City News weather specialist Denise Andriachi.
Still sitting with this active weather, a bit of light snow and scattered flurries on and off today. Chance of flurries overnight through Saturday as well, and then periods of snow up to 10 centimeters for Sunday. We may see a few flakes hang on Monday, but overall next week is a much quieter weather pattern. The trend will be below seasonal, definitely tapping into some colder air as we wrap up January and welcome February, but a lot more stable weather too, so not as many systems rolling through. Overnight tonight, we are down to near -5.
City News time 11:01. Expect increased bylaw officers in the downtown core this weekend. This is to prevent anything close to a Convoy 2.0, as this comes on the anniversary of the start of the Freedom Convoy demonstrations. The City of Ottawa says special parking restrictions will be in place throughout the weekend, and tickets will be issued for things like open fires, public urination, littering, or unnecessary noise. There are no road closures in place, but police say they could impose temporary closures to manage large volumes of traffic if necessary. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and the leader of the opposition will speak this morning at a ceremony to commemorate Holocaust Remembrance Day. It is the 78th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz concentration camp, which was run by the Nazis during World War II. The global remembrance today is held for the 6 million Jews murdered in Holocaust camps. The event in the city will start any moment now at the National Holocaust Monument at Wellington and Booth. City News time, 11:03. Video footage of 5 former Memphis police officers viciously beating a black man is set to be released later today.
President Biden, in a statement, says the family of Tyree Nichols deserves a, quote, swift, full, and transparent investigation into his death. But the president is urging that all protests around the case remain peaceful, echoing the wishes of his family. The president writing, quote, outrage is understandable, but violence is never acceptable. Violence is destructive and against the law. The president adding it has no place in peaceful protests seeking justice. The president says Nichols' death is a, quote, painful reminder we must do more to ensure that our criminal justice system lives up to the promise of fair and impartial justice, equal treatment, and dignity for all. Karen Travers, ABC News, Washington.
City News time 11:03. The Supreme Court of Canada has ruled that a mandatory minimum sentence of 4 years for firing a gun at a house is unconstitutional. The decision comes in the case of Jesse Dallas Hills, who pleaded guilty to 4 charges stemming from a May 2014 incident in Lethbridge, Alberta, in which he swung a baseball bat and shot at a car with a rifle, smashed the window of a vehicle, and fired rounds into a family home. Hills argued the minimum 4-year sentence in effect at the time for recklessly discharging a firearm into a house or other building violated the constitutional prohibition on cruel and unusual punishment. I am Damilola Unime. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, we wanted to talk a little transit today, so we've invited Laura Shantz from Ottawa Transit Riders to spend time with us today on City News. Hi, Laura.
Good morning, Sam.
Laura, we saw today that the City of Ottawa and RTG has released a statement saying that they are wanting to move forward and work together. We know there's lots of details behind this that aren't being released. How do you feel about today's statement, Laura?
You know, if they want to work together, great, make it happen. But at the same time, you know, where is this climate of transparency we were promised? What's happening? What details can we know? Because it really doesn't feel like we're turning over a new leaf in that regard.
We spoke a little bit earlier with Councillor Tim Tierney, who said, you know, at this point he couldn't release any more details, but there would be more information coming. But for you, is it the perspective of the timing of when we're hearing?
You know, I am kind of, I am noticing that we're getting this news on a Friday. I don't think that is unintentional. I think that there's, you know, they're kind of hoping that this will just be, okay, it's done, and we won't need to follow up on that, because we know that, you know, Friday in the news cycle, things often get dropped. People often aren't paying as much attention. So that does come to mind. And you know, it's also, a lot of these problems with LRT are still pretty fresh in the mind, though. So I think in that regard, I think it's interesting timing. You know, does this actually signify that we're going to move forward in a better direction or not?
One thing I know about communications, Laura, because I do a lot of it, is every single word has to have a purpose. So let's see exactly, I'll read out exactly what they sent, one part of it anyway. City of Ottawa and Rideau Transit Group announce agreement to resolve ongoing disputes, reset relationship, and a plan to move forward to deliver safe and reliable train service to the people of Ottawa. Let's dissect this a little bit. We know that there's been a lot of tension. We know some of the players that were part of this have moved on in various capacities. The part that I want to talk here a little bit about is the words that talk about the ongoing disputes. We know there's a lot of money at stake here. Laura, what do you think about that particular phrasing?
Yeah, it's you know, it's going to be interesting to see. We will eventually learn, you know, some of the numbers involved. You know, if nowhere else, then they'll come out in budget statements. If we're receiving money or giving money, we'll eventually know that. But we know, like you said, it's hundreds of millions of dollars we're talking here. This is big money, and frankly, it's money that could go to very good use in our transit system if we're going to be, you know, if we might be receiving money. We have a lot of needs for funding for good quality paratransit buses, for improving our bus fleet, and, you know, just making sure transit can actually do the job we need it to do.
And Laura, they use the phrase reset relationship. That's an interesting phrase.
It is an interesting phrase. I'm not sure 100% where they're going with that. I think, you know, the idea of a fresh start is nice. It's positive, but you know, in my mind, we can forgive a lot. We can understand a lot, but I think it also behooves us to not try and forgive and forget. We need to remember where we've been. We need to remember what we've been through in order to ensure that we are moving forward in a spirit of, you know, openness and collaboration, but also making sure that accountability is still there should issues crop up in the future.
Mm-hmm. And we know as well the phrasing that they've used here, a plan to move forward to deliver safe. Let's just talk about the safe part of this. There has been a lot of challenges with this system. A lot of people don't feel safe with this system because of things that have happened. Talk to me a little bit about the safe portion here.
You know, the safe portion, I think, you know, it's very deliberate wording. I know that transit for a long time, you know, all of the messaging has always said, oh, no, it's safe, it's safe, it's safe, it's safe, it's safe, regardless of if that's what people actually feel when they take transit or not. And we know that when we've had these issues with breakdowns, we've had these issues, you know, going back a little bit further with derailments, that people really don't feel safe, and rebuilding that kind of feeling takes more than writing in a memo that we're resetting a relationship or that transit will be safe. Like, it's, you know, we really need that clear proof that they really are going to address safety. We want to see those clear safety plans for all riders, especially riders, you know, using mobility devices. And we really want, you know, clear communication, because that is going to be a big part of trying to help people feel safer on a system.
And you spoke a little bit about the reliable train service already, but I think it's important to sort of stop here and pause a little bit. Already we've seen challenges into this council and how frustrating it must be for members of council, particularly someone like Mayor Mark Sutcliffe, who's just come on this council and is feeling probably like he's cleaning up a little bit of a mess. He had nothing to do with any of the procurement or any of the agreements, but yet he's here to sort of put it as a priority, and he must put it as a priority. I think, as we've talked about all week, in his state city address that he gave a little bit earlier this week, he did put it front and center because it really does affect every single portion of the city. Even if you don't take transit, it affects every single person in this city from a tax perspective, but also from a tourism perspective, businesses. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. So the reliable piece is so key here.
It really is. And we, as you said, it touches everyone. Even if you don't take transit yourself, you benefit from other people taking transit if you're out and about and there are fewer cars on the road because people are on buses and trains. And having that reliability is really going to be essential, especially when we're seeing, more and more folks told that they're going to be required to return to an office building in person. They're going to make decisions, and they're going to probably make long-term decisions. If something isn't working and if people are trying to take transit and it's not working, they don't have that reliability, they will switch modes because people need to be at their jobs on time. And if they're not allowed to, if they're required to be somewhere in person, all of a sudden, minutes really matter. A bus delay of 15, 20 minutes can make a big difference. And, workers, many of our essential workers who've had to be in person this whole pandemic, our healthcare workers, our retail workers, many of our service workers, they've been feeling this all along. And now that, if that reliability issue persists, that pain will spread.
And we saw as well that they're talking particularly in regards to the settlement agreement regarding the notice of default that arose following the August 8th and September 19th, 2021 derailments through RTD's acknowledgement of the default and the city's confirmation of the immediate cure based on the rigorous plan that RTG put out, and they issued that really led to the derailments and come to a sustainable resolution on the axle bearing assembly issue. The city acknowledges the work RTG has done and will continue to do to ensure the people of Ottawa receive safe and reliable service on O Train Line 1, and will continue to monitor the progress. I mean, there's a lot in there, of course, Laura, but is it transparent enough for you?
What does that monitoring look like? Is that going to mean regular reporting to Transit Commission where everybody can tune in and hear for themselves what it is? Or does that mean, memos that stay within council and don't get released further, or sessions in camera? To me, it's, we don't know how much the public is going to be involved. And that is the big question, to make sure that when these things happen, that there is that climate of openness and transparency and a real willingness to have the public fully informed and aware of what the current status is, because that's that kind of clear communication. That's how you start to try to rebuild some confidence.
We'll be following this story, of course, very closely. Laura, you've been very generous on a Friday for your time. Thank you.
My pleasure. Have a great one.
Laura Shantz joining us from Ottawa Transit Riders. Lots of information coming your way today. Anil Jolly's going to be spending time with us as well. He, of course, is a good friend of City News. He is our City News web editor. We're going to be talking about lots of different subjects with him. We're also getting ready for lunch today. We're inviting to the table Bernie Forrestal, a fundraising professional, as well as Steve Ball, president of the Ottawa Gatineau Hotel Association. Lots to talk about on lunch today. Stay with us on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
Salut tout le monde, je m'appelle Jessie Lindsay. Venez écouter mon spectacle Encore Ottawa 3 sur Rogers TV cette semaine. Hi everybody, come listen to my Encore Ottawa 3 show on Rogers TV this week. I hope you enjoy it.
It
was John's graduation. We were so proud. We all got together for a picnic. That's when we heard coming from the radio. So we stopped and we listened. It helped us get to safety. That's why when I think of John, because now he has a real future to look forward to.
Our ancestors came here from France to build a better life. We lived here happily for generations. Until the British decided they wanted our land. The men were called to a meeting and then imprisoned. They demanded we swear an oath to their king and took everything, regardless. We were forced from Acadie, the only home we knew. Mon Acadie n'existera plus.
From 1755 to 1763, over 10,000 Acadians were ripped from their homeland. Despite this, Acadian culture endures in Atlantic Canada.
Join me for Season 3 of Paula Roy's Favorite Foods. Whew, that was a lot. I think I need a nap.
Laprade Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
And we're back on City News. I'm Sam Laprade. I've invited our friend and colleague into the studio today. Anil Jolly's here with me, City News web editor. Hello.
Hi, Sam.
Busy week?
It's been a very busy week, yes.
Very busy week. We've talked a lot about Wellington Street. Lots of different ideas have been floating around. Of course, it came to council as well. Lots of chatter there. We know that it will be sort of opened up post March 1st. We're hearing from so many different people on this, and it's important to get all those perspectives.
Absolutely. We know that the bylaw ended last December, and it's an opportunity for many different people to kind of weigh in on it. We know that the federal government weighs in on it as well, but it is a city street. So it'll be interesting to see where we move forward from here.
Absolutely. We saw some chatter from lots of different politicians. We've heard Senator Andrew Cardozo had some thoughts on this.
Now, downtown core will have some level of congestion. So I suppose the challenge ahead is to find the compromise that will do best both for traffic patterns and making Wellington Street a space that we can all be proud of as a nationally important destination. If you agree with the people option rather than the vehicle option, I will suggest to you that there are 3 simple stages that can literally begin tomorrow. Begin with some Winterlude flair being brought onto Wellington Street, using some of the wooden kiosks that were part of the winter market at the very successful winter market at Lansdowne. You can bring some of them to parts of Wellington Street. There can be organized hockey games on weekends, and perhaps some ice and snow sculptures, along with a few food trucks, for example, down at the Wellington and Bank area, and include, of course, the quintessential beaver tails. The second phase would be through the spring. That focus would be bringing in benches, planters, Adirondack chairs, street art, sculptures, and then include events connected to the Tulip Festival and Canada Day. Let's give this area a name, such as Constitution Place, Place de la Constitution, and have some displays that highlight the key aspects of this foundational document of our country.
So lots of great ideas there from the senator. I mean, not bad ideas, but is this the way you think we want to go?
I think so, Sam. I think right now, when you look at everything that's happened with Wellington Street, there's those barricades and just a constant reminder for people, of what happened. And I think now there is a tremendous opportunity to make that an inviting space. Senator brought up some great points about, Winterlude and all the winter activities that we have here. This is an opportunity to make that space inviting and enjoyable for many people, and even, like you said, in the springtime with Tulip Festival. So some really great points there.
And it's never a bad idea to have multiple locations for beaver tails.
Everybody loves beaver tails.
Everyone loves a beaver tail.
Everybody.
When's the last time you've had a beaver tail?
It's been quite some time. Sam.
Okay, me too.
I've been off the sugar for a little bit.
Oh, that's right. Good for you.
Yes,
good for you.
yes.
I should probably be off the sugar as well. We know this time last year we were, holding our breath. We did not know what this city was going to be experiencing. And I remember being on the air the Friday as the Freedom Convoy was kind of rolling into town and thinking, what is this going to mean? And I, very naively, thought we would probably all be finished by Monday. Of course, that wasn't the case. So, it was a 3-week ordeal for the residents and businesses of Ottawa.
I think a lot of people shared those sentiments too, Sam. We didn't really know what was going to happen, what we were in for. People, they'll come for the weekend, they'll leave. No, it ended up being over 3 weeks. Drastically changed the lives for so many people and businesses in the downtown core. And, this 1-year anniversary of the start of it definitely is going to be bringing up some not great memories for so many people who dealt with the honking and everything downtown. And it's great to see that the Ottawa Police Service has stepped up now in the city of Ottawa with bylaw officers stepping up that enforcement this weekend as well.
Absolutely. And, it's so interesting because I'm actually heading to the Rideau Centre this weekend, and that's something I wouldn't have done this time last year, right? It was just such a different time in our lives. And to think that the Rideau Centre was closed for just about a month, to close the Rideau Centre. I mean, I look back on it now and to see the visuals of snipers on the building where the chapters and the Indigo were, and to see the mounted police, all of those things were just, it was a wild time.
It was a scary situation, absolutely, for many people. Yeah,
absolutely. We spoke a little bit earlier this week to Jonathan Malloy in regards to the Freedom Convoy.
And there were 3 categories: people who didn't want the vaccine, and a group that was sort of sympathetic to people that didn't want the vaccine. And of course, that just sort of grew from the trucker restriction to that just larger skepticism about vaccines, which then triggers into larger skepticism about all COVID restrictions. If you drill down quickly, there are different exact points of view there. It was just but it was all jumbled against a general concern about COVID vaccines and restrictions.
Because it was a confusing time, and a lot of people were saying, listen, Canadians have the right to go to Parliament Hill and to protest. And then we saw some hate in there, and we saw some symbols of hate, and then that muddied the water. And then if you think back to, to the tomb of the soldier, and I really, really get emotional when I think about that National War Museum, War Memorial, and someone dancing on that tomb. That visual I will never get out of my mind. That was tragic for the city and for this country.
I think you're not alone in sharing those sentiments, and just I remember seeing that video and just on social media, just that person just disrespecting the tomb of the unknown soldier in such a way, and just those flags of hate, those symbols of hate just driving around in our city. It really, really kind of changed the course of this city and our country for forever. And just all the events of that just coming back for so many people. It can't be easy for those people downtown who are probably bracing, saying, it's the anniversary. We heard rumblings of a reunion coming through and it was canceled, but we honestly don't know. And it's good to see that the OPS has stepped up and said we're not going to allow anything if anything should happen.
The chief's voice was very strong.
It was very strong.
Very strong. at the Ottawa Police Board meeting this week. Let's head to Toronto. We love visiting Toronto. I head to Toronto a lot. I know you do as well. You've got some family there. What's happening in Toronto right now in regards to the attacks on their transit system is heartbreaking. We know that a lot of women have been attacked. There's been some deaths. Just everything that's happening in Toronto, I find it hard to believe it's Toronto, to be honest. And I know Prime Minister Justin Trudeau had some thoughts as well.
Keeping Canadians safe remains one of the top jobs that all orders of government need to put at the forefront of everything they do. We will, of course, continue to work with the province and with the city on making sure that Canadians are safe. If there's a role for the federal government to step up, we will no doubt step up. It's something that we're happy to partner with provinces and municipalities on.
It's an important message to hear from the Prime Minister, but to think that the Prime Minister has to comment on the violence in Toronto, it just blows my mind. I mean, what's Toronto coming to?
I don't know what's happening, Sam, to be honest. And imagine having to take to TTC and that was your only way of having to get around. Do I feel safe waking up? I have to go to the TTC. I have to get to work today. But am I going to get to work? What's going to happen? Imagine having to have that added stress when you wake up in the morning and have to start your day, and that was the only way you can get around.
We spoke with one of our colleagues from Toronto yesterday about this issue, and she said, listen, Sam, a lot of people have a vehicle are opting to drive now because of this violence. They're too scared. But to your point, the hundreds of thousands of people that don't have a vehicle. I think about single mom trying to drop her kid off at daycare and get to her job and just wondering, am I going to be safe on this train today? I mean, it just boggles my mind that this is happening. And I think, and I spoke about this earlier in terms of some of the hate crime that's happening, a lot of young people involved in this. Young people. Like we saw, young girls, 13 to 16, murder a man who was homeless on the streets in Toronto, in Canada. I can't get I will never get my mind wrapped around it.
Yeah, it's scary, Sam. I have no idea what's happening, and especially, like you said, it's involving young kids who are committing these heinous acts, and it's just, I'm at a loss of words, to be honest, and it's emotional to think about just what those families of those victims are thinking of too.
Absolutely, and that's really a focus here. When we hear and we get this breaking news in, we have to do our job here in but it doesn't mean we don't take it home.
No, absolutely, and it's tough to kind of separate that with the emotions with the job sometimes, because you see all this happening, and when you try to write or you try to say stuff on air, it's hard at times, but we find a way to do that. But I mean, it's always on the back of my minds, our minds, thinking about stuff like this too. So
absolutely, thanks for your time today.
Thank you, Sam.
And always, what a pleasure to work with you. Anil Jolly, City News web editor, spending time with us today. When we come back, Gary Dimmick is going to be here. I know you've read the work of Gary Dimmick in the Ottawa Citizen and the Ottawa Sun. He's going to talk about a trial. You won't want to miss it. Trust me, he is an incredible guest. Stay with us here on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Hello, my name is Sean Duhame. And this is the Sean Duhame Trio. I hope you enjoyed.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
When an impaired driver killed my brother DJ, my life changed forever. During the pandemic, all of our lives changed, and many of us turned to alcohol and drugs to cope. As life returns to normal, the increase in substance use from COVID has lingered, and some police services report an increase in impaired driving that caused heartbreak and devastation. Now, more than ever, we need your commitment to never drive impaired and to encourage all of your family and friends to do the same. Together, we can save lives.
I'm Julian Armour from Music and Beyond. Join us for a new show this spring on Rogers called Music and Beyond Presents.
Bum, 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 bum. $20. $20. We're on the line for $20.
On the next episode of Simply Cooking by Chef, I'm joined by my friend Neil from Ottawa Valley Meats. Tune in to see what we're grilling up on the barbecue.
Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 1011 everywhere.
It is Friday, January 27th. Good morning. I am Damilola Unime. Right now in Ottawa, -9 with light snow. In Smiths Falls, it is -7. And here's what's making news this hour. The city and RTG have released a joint statement concerning the settlement of their disputes. Both say this agreement ends all disputes between the two over the launch and subsequent issues with the light rail service. The settlement means the derailment issue from last August and September are settled, as are the maintenance and performance issues. RTG has committed to having sustained solutions to the problems Phase 1 encountered before Stage 2 is opened. And the two sides say this settlement addresses a number of recommendations from the Light Rail Inquiry report. And as we head into the weekend, the City of Ottawa says it plans to prevent anything close to a repetition of the so-called Freedom Convoy protest. This weekend marks the one-year anniversary of the start of the occupation that saw some of the downtown core blockaded for almost a month. A special parking restriction is in effect for Saturday and Sunday in the downtown core. Extra bylaw officers will be out and about for parking violations and will be enforcing rules against things like fires, fireworks, unnecessary noise, building illegal structures, as well as public urination and defecation. Memphis, much of Northern America and the world are bracing for the release of a police video depicting 5 black officers viciously beating a black man who is now dead. Ottawa police in a statement says the death of Tyree Nichols at the hands of police officers is inexcusable and deeply troubling. The force echoing the calls for justice and says they support the steps being taken to fully investigate the incident and hold the individuals responsible accountable. The Ottawa Police Force says they are reaching out to the black community and other marginalized groups in the capital to express concern and offer any support at this time, and also affirm the force's commitment to providing equitable policing in Ottawa. City News time is 11:32. I am Damilola Unime. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, simply put, he is the best at what he does, and that is Gary Dimmick from the Ottawa Citizen. He is a crime reporter. He has been reporting on crime in this city for many, many years, and we're going to be talking today about a barbecue that turned fatal in 2018. Gary joins me now. How are you, Gary?
Oh, hey, Sam. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you so much. We're following very closely the trial of Tristan Campbell. We know that this backyard barbecue was supposed to be some fun, turned absolutely tragic. Give us a little bit of details for those that aren't familiar with the case.
Yeah, this is a community housing neighborhood where they'd had all kinds of loud arguments in the past. And this was a feud that had kind of gone across a night and into the next day into what would be a backyard barbecue. And the feud between these guys just got really, really intense. And it ended, unfortunately, in, Tristan Campbell. He's on trial for murder. It's an interesting case because it's not a whodunit. He admits, agreed stating the facts that he shot the place up, but obviously self-defense is a live issue. And he had already pleaded guilty to manslaughter, but they rejected that, and so they're putting him on trial for murder. He ended up shooting Abdi Osman, who's about 31. He got shot, unfortunately, in the back of the head, I think also in the chest. There's another woman, she got shot as well. This is just a barbecue. And, it's not lost on me that, it's not nighttime. There are kids in a dense, packed neighborhood. In fact, this is going back, May 2018.
Right.
In fact, some of the bullets that sprayed the townhouse with sprayed the bullets, stray bullets, went inside one of the houses where there were kids inside the house, hit the fish tank, hit the kids' toy box, hit the family sofa. Remarkably, none of the kids were shot or injured. And then, by the end of it all, you've got Abdi Osman, who's dead, and the other woman is being transported to hospital. And so the trial has been going on for got to be 3 or 4 weeks now. But what was interesting this week is that a key Crown witness in the murder case, she took the stand, and she's a Crown witness, but on the stand she ended up saying that she was pressured by the Crown to stick to her original statement that she gave to police back in 2018. The problem with the statement she gave to the police back in 2018 is that she said she had been drinking for 3 days straight, running on a little sleep, and was traumatized, obviously, by the event. And she wanted to change it once she sobered up. And anyway, it's her position that she wasn't really given a chance to change her statement. And this is where it got thrown a big wrench in her story, is that she actually says that if she were to change her story, that she could be prosecuted for lying to police. So they wanted her to stick to the same story. When it came time to tell her story in court under oath, she told a different story. And in fact, the story that she told was that she had lied to police. She admits to lying to police back in 2018, said that she lied to police to protect her friends. Basically, she said that it was the accused killer that was the one making the threats all night long, when in fact she got to the stand. She told a completely opposite story, the one that she wanted to change, and that has it that the Abdi fellow, who unfortunately was shot dead, was the one who was making threats the night before, and not Tristan Campbell, the guy who fired the gun all over the place. And last place somebody should be shooting a gun, let alone having one at a backyard barbecue with a bunch of kids running around.
Oh, absolutely.
This is not a normal barbecue, man.
Absolutely.
It's not the Ottawa, that we'd like to think of, right? We're not talking about SOPA. We're talking about a backyard barbecue where people are getting killed over a feud in the backyard. It doesn't make any sense, man.
And Gary, you've been following crime in this city for many, many years. Have you seen this before, where someone, goes to testify and they sort of blow the case out of the water, if you will?
It happens, not a lot, though. Usually it's pretty well rehearsed in what the witnesses are going to say and not say. In this case, that didn't happen. They didn't go as planned. But, so far, there's been no word that she'd be charged with changing her story or so-called lying to the police. But, yeah, it happens every now and then. Not every day, though. But,
and when you're following a story like this, Gary, do you see, who else is kind of in the courtroom? Are there family members there? Is there still, a lot of attention on this?
Well, in this case here, this one's on Zoom. So, it's in the courtroom too. But you'll see family members and friends and family from both sides. They're on the Zoom. And a lot of people are actually following this case. A lot of people that not normally in court, they're there to hear what happened, or at least the court's version of what happened right before the jury. So we'll see what happens in that case.
And how long is this case going? Is it still underway?
You're looking at this Monday. I'd say this Monday would be closing addresses to the jury. At least it's scheduled, and it could happen. So then you'll see it go to the jury, and then they'll deliberate for a while and come back with their verdict, see whether or not he's guilty of murder and not manslaughter. And the difference for your listeners being, obviously, is that murder, first degree, is, premeditated. Anything else is not premeditated. Second degree, basically they have to figure out whether or not he had the intention to kill. And if he didn't, then it's manslaughter, which he's already pleaded guilty to. But the Crown, they rejected that. They're taking him to court on the murder. case.
Did the defendant take the stand at all? Did Tristan Campbell share his version?
Not yet. No, not that I heard.
It's going to be really interesting to see what comes out of this case. Gary, are you following any other cases at this time?
I followed a bunch of cases, every day. I don't write about them all, but we have to monitor them, see what's coming up. There's an interesting one with the Sisters Lamb. They're in their 60s, and they're accused of killing their mom. I don't know if you heard about that one.
Yes, I did, actually.
Yeah, so I kind of looked into that one because I kind of thought, what's the motive here? But it turns out that the police investigation has so far shown that the elderly woman that was killed, allegedly by her daughters that all lived in the same home, that they say that they suffered years of abuse at the hands of her mom. So that'll be very interesting when that gets to court to see, because it's not too often where the victim is also vilified in court as well, right?
It's so true. And the ages of them, when we've seen cases like that in the past, at least ones that I've sort of followed, the defendants tend to be, younger.
Younger.
Yeah.
Yeah, much younger, by about 40 years.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
I don't know what happened in that home, but whatever happened, it wasn't good, and it ended in murder. And I'm not going to get into the details, but it was a pretty awful way to go.
Absolutely. And there's just so much. We were talking today about just the level of crime and hate, not only happening here in the capital, but in Toronto as well. There just seems to be a lot going on in our country right now, Gary.
Yeah, crime's down in Ottawa, in my opinion. What is up are what I would call poverty crimes, shoplifting and property offenses, shoplifting and stealing gas. I don't know where you get your gas or if you have an electric car, but a lot of the places now, you can't get gas unless you prepay for it, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, it's a really good point.
I'm even seeing the super mailboxes down the road, right before Christmas. Somebody took a crowbar to every single one of them looking for, Christmas gift cards and parcels and whatnot right out of the super mailbox, took a crowbar to every one of them.
Wow. Is it difficult, Gary, to hear some of these stories when you're in the courtroom, either physically in the courtroom or in that Zoom courtroom?
It's a different compartment. It's a different compartment. I'm not I'm not there when it happens, so it's just a different compartment.
It's certainly appreciated. I know you go into some of those dark corners and have the opportunity to sort of share unfortunate and very tragic details from some of these cases, but it is appreciated bringing attention to them. You do such a great job.
Thanks. And maybe one of these days I'll get to cover a gala or a SOPA launch party.
There you go. It's February 8th, by the way. That much I know. Go SOPA. Thank you so much, Gary Dimmick, for joining me today.
I love you, Sam.
Oh, thank you so much. Gary Dimmick from the Ottawa Citizen. If you're not following him on Twitter, do so. It's at Crime Garden. He is an incredible writer. He has really covered some of the most horrific cases that have taken place here in Ottawa. I think about the case of the young boy that was locked in his basement for so many years, and I think about the murder in Barrhaven of a mom. Actually, that milestone of that murder, I think was either today or tomorrow. That family will be thinking about their mom. He really does a great job, and follow him for sure. I'm sure you've read his stuff, but don't stop. When we come back, Julie Finley's going to be here, and we're going to talk about the Snow Angel Challenge. Stay with us here on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
Salut tout le monde, je m'appelle Jessie Lindsay. Venez écouter mon spectacle Encore Ottawa 3 sur Rogers TV cette semaine. Hi everybody, come listen to my Encore Ottawa 3 show on Rogers TV this week. I hope you enjoy it.
On Friday's Daytime Ottawa fitness expert Tony Greco joining me on the show, so I better start my stretching now because I'm sure he's going to be putting me through a workout. But we're also going to talk to him why he decided to rebrand. Also tell you about a new local business. It is called Neverly Made. We'll give you all the details on what they offer. And we'll tell you about a brand new charity that's just started here in Ottawa. All that and more on Friday's Daytime Ottawa.
Everybody knows not to drink and drive, but some people still think it's okay to take drugs and drive. Police have the authority, the ability, and the tools to determine if drivers are impaired by legal or illegal drugs. And because drug-impaired drivers can pose just as great a risk as drunk drivers, they face the same penalties, like the loss of their driver's license, a criminal record, fines, and more. A message from the RCMP, the Canadian Association of Chiefs of Police, and Arrive Alive, Drive Sober.
Do you have something to share? Let everyone know about your next meeting, your need for volunteers, or your fundraising event on the Rogers TV Community Billboard. Send us your words and we'll bring them to life on Rogers TV and rogerstv.com. When it's time to spread the word, go to rogerstv.com to add your announcement to the Community Billboard.
Join me for Season 3 of Paula Roy's Favorite Foods. Whew, that was a lot. I think I need a nap.
Laprade Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, I'm looking outside at our studio here at City News, and I see that snow falling, and I know who's happy about that. Julie Finley and Mike Leggett. Hello, you two.
Hello, how are you?
It's great to spend time with you today, of course, talking about that Snow Angel Challenge. Julie, give us the details. What are you hoping for here?
Oh my gosh, starting February 1st and the entire month of February, I am so excited. I'm pretty sure we're going to get the entire city of Ottawa doing snow angels from east to west, north to south. So many schools have already taken part with the Schools for Snowsuits. So we're just at one right now doing snow angels, practicing, and we've got drones out there. And it's just a snow angel challenge, so everybody gets involved. Doing snow angels, sharing them on social media, hashtagging Snow Angel Ottawa at Snowsuit Fun, and just sharing the warmth across the city.
And we know it's been a very exciting time for the Snowsuit Fund. Mike, certainly here at City News, we're ecstatic of the, over $500,000. The proceeds, of course, heading to the Snowsuit Fund from the 50-50 that ran this Snow Angel Challenge. Mike, just seems to be the cherry on top.
It just goes to show a city the size of Ottawa should not be giving that much money in the times that we're in now, but they stepped up. And you mentioned it was $1 million that was 50-50. It was historic across the country for a 50-50 draw. And it just shows the heart and the heart that Ottawans have for children, and in particular the Snowsuit Fund, in particularly in the weather we're having today.
Absolutely, we can hear the giggles of the kids behind you, Julie. What's happening today? Where are you?
We're at Canada Montessori. They're one of the schools that have already raised over $5,000 with snowsuit drives, bake sales. The team of teachers here has been so fantastic, and the kids love every minute of it. So we had grade 7 and 8 because the high school students are in exams. So the grade 7 and 8s came out. They're doing an official challenge to the rest of the school. So on February 1st, everybody's coming out, and they're going to do snow angels as well, and they're going to post it and challenge all their friends, family, and other schools in the Ottawa area.
And we want all kids, Mike, to be able to do those snow angels, and they can only do it if they're toasty warm. Talk to me about the need a little bit with the Snowsuit Fund.
Well, the need, unfortunately, it doesn't go away. We still give out, on average, up to 16,000 snowsuits every year, particularly with, the government having 500,000 new Canadians coming starting next year. I will see the need continue, and for particularly children being able to participate makes them be level set with everybody else, which is important.
Absolutely. And Julie, how can we participate? I know you want us to do it. We know that it's February 1st to the 28th. How can we get involved and challenge our friends and colleagues?
Well, dress up in your warm clothes, jump in the snow anywhere. Luckily, we just had this big dump, and I think we have more on the way. And February are always full of snow, so find an area. You can take a photo of your Snow Angel Challenge, a video. If you have pets that like to do it, put them in it too, because there are prizes to be won. You post it on social media. You hashtag Snow Angel Ottawa and at Snowsuit Fund, and all of those photos will be put into a weekly draw for prizes. But it also gives that idea, and the best way to do it is tag 3 to 5 of your friends and get them to do it too, and then we make this chain of snow angels across the city.
Well, that's fantastic. Well, we look forward to it. I'm looking at my producers. I'm looking at Aaron, and no, we're going to do this, right, guys? We're going to do this. Yeah, big nods all around. They're going to participate with me, and we'll get out there and participate as well. Julie Finley and Mike Leggett joining us today to talk about the Snow Angel Challenge. Get back to those little ones. We can hear the giggles.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, you two. We appreciate it very much. That sounds like fun, Noah. We could do that here.
It does sound like fun. I mean, I feel like we should get like hazard pay to go make some snow angels, but I want to get frostbite.
Well, I think you two are worried about how am I going to get up. Well, I'm old. I'm going to be 52 next week.
That's not that old. You always say you're dating yourself, but it's like wine. Like it's just fine.
Just fine wine. Exactly. Fine wine. Speaking about fine wine, if we're drinking some fine wine, what are we watching, Noah?
Yeah. So recently a new series released on HBO, and HBO is kind of known for high quality television. So this one is called The Last of Us.
I'm taking you with me. Do what I say when I say it. Got any advice on the best way west? Yeah, go east. You've come this far, then you know what's out there.
Okay, tell me about this.
Yeah, so it's important to note, kind of to start this off, that The Last of Us is a very popular video game that was released in 2013, I believe. So it is an adaptation. And I know what you're thinking, Sam, a video game adaptation? Is this what you're bringing me, Noah?
Yes.
And it's because people do associate this as more shallower forms of entertainment in media, video games. You know, the image they have isn't necessarily associated with high-quality storytelling or characterization, but The Last of Us, as an adaptation, stands on its own as kind of the only video game adaptation that people are praising to actually work. So The Last of Us is set roughly 20 years after a mass fungal infection starts spreading over the world. It's caused by a mutation in the gene of cordyceps, which is a real fungus that's known as a parasite fungus, Sam. So
you're scaring me a little. No, I have to be honest.
In real life, these cordyceps can live in insects and arthropods and can take control of their whole systems. Cordyceps cannot exist in humans, but in this show, it kind of evolves to be able to infect humans, and the main goal of the cordyceps are just to spread. It's not a living organism, but it is a fungus, so it does have objectives, you could say. So this show takes place 20 years after that mass kind of infection has spread, which sparked a global pandemic, and the infection causes its victims to transform into these hostile fungus-covered creatures known as clickers. Because their whole head is covered in fungus, they don't see and they just make clicking sounds to sense where you are.
What are you doing to me?
Think of a zombie show, a la, The Walking Dead, or something along those lines, but the focus, just like those shows, isn't on the monsters, it's more on the characters within them. So we follow a character called Joel. He's a smuggler in the kind of world that we're living in. He's living in the city of Boston in a quarantine zone, and he's tasked with smuggling this very young teenage girl named Ellie. You don't kind of know why right off the bat, but you do get the sense she's more important to ending this kind of virus and pandemic we've seen. So the whole show is kind of about this man, Joel Miller, who's played by Pedro Pascal. I don't know if you're familiar.
No, I'm not familiar with him.
From The Mandalorian.
Okay.
Yeah, so he's been in a lot of shows where he's been kind of a surrogate dad lately, and he's kind of picking up that vibe in this show as well. So his goal is to smuggle this girl across the country, and it's really just about the characterization of a man who's kind of learning to love and to feel positive emotions in such a negative world again. It's a really good show, and I would highly recommend it to you.
Okay, well, look at you. And we're missing Keith Whittier this week, but you've done a great job.
And well, Keith is at Sundance, so he is very busy checking out some of the incredible movies that are going to be debuting this year. And I'm sure he'll bring back some exciting news for us next week with some new releases. And we should, we're going into the Oscars too, so he'll have a lot of talk about the Oscars.
Right, absolutely. We're thinking about the weekend. Do you have any big plans?
Not quite. I was just talking to Gary, actually, before we brought him on the show, and I was letting him know me and my girlfriend are going skiing.
Fun.
Yeah, up at Camp Fortune. So that's kind of our only weekend activity plan. But
that's exciting.
Yeah, it should be good. It's a little work trip with our thing, kind of going to serve as a little Valentine's Day outing for us, too.
Well, look at you, too. Yeah. I'm heading up to Chelsea. We love Chelsea.
Yeah, we do love Chelsea.
And heading up to Motel Chelsea there to have a little bit of a weekend away just with
also talked about
one of my
on the
gal
show
pals. Yeah, exactly. We chatted with them, and we thought that would be kind of fun to do that. And, we might... eat a little and chat a little. What gals do when they go away for the weekend.
With Sam Laprade, yeah.
There you go.
Be fun.
Lots of fun. Lots of stuff coming up for you, of course. We're getting ready for the lunch. Today we're going to talk about the thoughts on the city road clearing. We know a little bit earlier, David Smith, our colleague, of course, here at City News, was talking about that on the Talkback Hour, getting people to give them a sense of how the city has done with the snow clearing this particular winter. So we're going to get the thoughts of Bernie Forrestal and Steve Ball. We're also going to talk about Wellington Street. That's something we're going to be talking about for a very long time. We're also going to be talking about the so-called Freedom Convoy, and it's been a year. If you can believe it, it's been a year. We're also going to ask about some success factors for tourism in this city. We know we want to show off the capital. What's the best way to do that after some challenging times? We're going to meet a lot of different business owners as well. We're going to talk a little chocolate cake. You're going to wonder why, I'm sure, in a little bit. Talking with an owner of a bakery and talk all things chocolate cake. Stay with us here on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Hello, my name is Sean Duhame. And this is the Sean Duhame Trio. I hope you enjoy it.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
I'm Wendell Clark with a word about winning. We all know it takes a team effort in any sport and with any challenge. You can be a part of the winning team that shuts out impaired driving. Whether you're out on the town or just hanging out with friends, drink responsibly. Always have a plan for a safe ride home for yourself, your family, and your friends. You'll be helping to shut out impaired driving.
Visit ArriveAlive.org to find out more. Arrive Alive. Drive sober.
Once upon a time, in a nursery rhyme, there were 3 bears. 1, 2, 3 bears. And they went a-walking in the cool woods a-talking while their porridge began.
Rogers TV invites you to let your imagination roam as we present Ottawa Storytellers. Each week we'll present a collection of original creative stories and inspirations for children of all ages. Join us for Ottawa Storytellers on Rogers TV.
Bum, 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 bum. $20. $20. We're on the line for $20.
On the next episode of Simply Cooking by Chef, I'm joined by my friend Neil from Ottawa Valley Meats. Tune in to see what we're grilling up on the barbecue.
is City News.
CIWW 1310 AM in Ottawa.
And CJET 1011 FM in Smiths Falls and the Valley. Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 1011 everywhere.
It is Friday, January 27. Good afternoon. I am Damilola Onime. Right now in Ottawa, light snow, -9. In Smiths Falls, it is -7. And here's just making news in Ottawa and the Valley. A settlement has been reached between the City of Ottawa and Rideau Transit Group that promises to reset the relationship between the two. City News reporter Chris Curries has the details.
The two have a long and fractured history throughout the lifespan of the Confederation line, but one of the recommendations from the LRT inquiry report was that the relationship be repaired, and it seems to be the case. We learned Wednesday of a settlement between the two parties, and today the city and RTG released a joint statement saying that there will be a reset, and the notice of defaults have been resolved, which revolved around the derailments in 2021. It also says RTG is committed to fixing light rail vehicles on Stage 1 before opening Stage 2's extension, and that the two have settled disputes concerning RTG's maintenance performance and the city's administration of the contract. Terms of the settlement were not disclosed. Chris Curries, City News.
With the weather forecast for Ottawa and the Valley, here is City News weather specialist Denise Andriachi.
Periods of light snow and scattered flurries today, and mostly cloudy. It's an active weather pattern that is really set up here across the Ottawa region. It was kicked off with that big system over the course of the last few days, but today, tomorrow, and Sunday, we have the chance of picking up a few centimeters. We're really going to watch for Sunday too. 5 to 10 centimeters possible with periods of snow. Temperatures are up and down over the next few days, but we really are cold. Saturday night down to -14, and then daytime highs for Sunday only near -10. The guaranteed high today, -5.
City News time 12:02. With inflation hitting harder and higher cost of everything, food banks are seeing a lot more people seeking their services. Over 600,000 people visited food banks more than 4.3 million times across the province last year. And grocery stores, Metro and Food Basics have stepped in with a helping hand in the capital, offering the Ottawa Food Bank a donation of $299,000. Carolyn Stewart is the Executive Director of Food Ontario.
There's a lot of uncertainty this year in terms of, the cost of food going up, both for food banks who are accessing food and for individuals. And donations are actually on a decline overall. And so, as I said, these donations are so essential to make sure that they can continue to keep food bank shelves stocked and continue to meet the demand of their communities.
And Stewart says food insecurity and food bank use in Ontario has been on the rise well before the pandemic even started. If you were hoping for a return of the Zellers restaurant with the retail brand making its return this spring, you're getting your wish. Sort of.
Well, you won't be sitting on those pressboard wooden benches or on those swivel stools up next to the counter, since an in-store diner just really isn't possible in the new, much smaller Zellers stores that are set to open this spring within existing Hudson's Bay locations. But the HBC says it has heard, in their words, loud and clear from shoppers that they miss those restaurants, so you will be kind of getting the next best thing, food trucks. Zellers is mobilizing what it describes as a fleet of food trucks to greet customers at its first locations, a so-called Zellers Diner on Wheels. Will pull into various locations and serve shoppers with some of those nostalgic items on the old Zellers menu. The retailer launching an Instagram poll for the top 10 items, including the Big Zed Burger, hot chicken sandwich, quesadillas, and grilled cheese. There's still no word about bringing back Zeddy or Club Zed points, but at this point, that's next, right? At the City News Business Center, I'm Mike Eppel.
I am Damilola Onime. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Connecting you and your community. This is the Sam Laprade Show on City News.
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, happy Friday, everybody. It is lunchtime. We always invite people to the table to have lunch with us today, and pulling up a chair is Steve Ball, president of the Ottawa-Gatineau Hotel Association. Hi, Steve.
Good afternoon, Sam. How are you?
Great. Thanks for having lunch with us. We've included Bernie Forrestal in our lunch today as well, a fundraising professional. Hi, Bernie.
Hello, Sam, and hello, Steve.
It's great to have you both here. And Steve, of course, the snow is still coming down a little bit. I'm seeing some snow here at our studio of City News, right near sort of the Conroy and Thurston area. Are you seeing snow where you are?
Yeah, I'm downtown in the Glebe, and you know what? Let it snow. It's winter in Canada. You have to embrace it.
There you go. How have you found the snow clearing, Steve, in your area?
You know, it's not bad. It's an easy target to take a shot at the city, but this is an awfully big city, and they've got a lot of territory to cover. So I think they do a pretty good job.
I agree with you. I think they do, and we always can find something to complain about in this city, can't we, Bernie?
Absolutely, and I agree with Steve. These snowfalls are huge, and yesterday's was no different. But I think all in all, they do a pretty good job clearing the snow for sure.
And we know that they were in the middle of removing some of those snowbanks as well when we got this dump of snow this week, and that just adds to the pressure, I think, on residents to try and get their own streets cleaned up, Steve. But like you say, there's thousands of kilometers of streets and sidewalks as well that have to get cleared.
Yeah, exactly. I know my back is certainly feeling it this morning. But they work through the night, you know, and you often wake up in the morning, you're a nice clear street. Things are, the main streets are all done. So, again, I don't have a lot of complaints.
Absolutely. We think this, of course, this time last year, we were getting ready for the so-called Freedom Convoy. They were rolling into town. Bernie, do you think we'll ever see anything like that convoy again?
Well, I hopefully not, Sam. And, since last year, we've learned a lot as a city about protests in our town, and people protest every day, and it's their right, and they should be able to, and that's what makes us such a free society. And I hope that protests going forward respect other people in the city as well while getting their message out there.
And it was such a confusing time. We know that Jonathan Malloy, professor of political science at Carleton U, tells City News, even after a whole year, it's still difficult to kind of make sense of the reasoning behind the protests, and not only here in Ottawa, but other parts of the country.
And there were three categories. People who didn't want the vaccine, and a group that was sort of sympathetic to people that didn't want the vaccine. And of course, that just sort of it grew from the trucker restriction to this larger skepticism about vaccines, which then triggers into larger skepticism about all COVID restrictions. If you drill down quickly, there are different exact points of view there. It was just but it was all jumbled against a general concern about COVID vaccines and restrictions.
It was such a challenging time, and it's not over in many ways, Steve.
No, it's not over, but I think the conditions are different, Sam. I can think of three things, for example. As was just described, the vaccination policies and restrictions are gone. Truckers are working again. I think we saw a wake-up call from a policing perspective, and if you've heard the police chief in the last few days, there's a zero-tolerance policy, so the prep is going to be much better for future protests that may appear to be of this nature. But the big one for me is the funding model. This whole GoFundMe thing dried up, and I think that was one of the appeals to large groups across the country, is there was just a wackadow to draw from, and I'm not sure that materialized or will in the future. So it's different circumstances.
Certainly, as many of our listeners here on City News know, that when I'm not here on City News, I am working in the fundraising world, and of course, Bernie, you are too, to sort of watch that GoFundMe grow in such a short period of time. It certainly made a lot of fundraisers in the country sit up and pay attention.
Absolutely, and I know, Sam, at Shepherds of Good Hope downtown too, they were affected by the convoy, and donors across Canada and around the world stepped up and supported Shepherds of Good Hope during that time as well. So it just goes to show that people in Canada do want to help, and that the GoFundMe page was one thing, but they also helped others too. So.
It was definitely an interesting time in our city, and lots of discussion, endless discussion in regards to Wellington Street and what's going to happen there. We're hearing from, of course, city representatives. We're hearing from the feds. We also heard from a senator. We heard from Senator Andrew Cardozo.
Now, downtown core will have some level of congestion. So I suppose the challenge ahead is to find the compromise that will do best both for traffic patterns and making Wellington Street a space we can all be proud of as a nationally important destination. If you agree with the people option rather than the vehicle option, I will suggest to you that there are 3 simple stages that can literally begin tomorrow. Begin with some winterlude flair being brought onto Wellington Street, using some of the wooden kiosks that were part of the winter market at the very successful winter market at Lansdowne. You can bring some of them to parts of Wellington Street. There can be organized hockey games on weekends, and perhaps some ice and snow sculptures, along with a few food trucks, for example, down at the Wellington and Bank area, which include, of course, the quintessential beaver tails. The second phase would be through the spring. That focus would be bringing in benches, planters, Adirondack chairs, street art, sculptures, and then include events connected to the Tulip Festival and Canada Day. Let's give this area a name, such as Constitution Place, Place de la Constitution, and have some displays that highlight the key aspects of this foundational document of our country.
An important conversation there from the senator. Steve, what are your thoughts on some of the ideas from the senator?
I think the ideas are great. I've had a position from day one that the space needs to be flexible. My concern in the conversations is it seems to be either or. And if you look at cities around the world, major markets like London and Paris and Washington, they've got these removable bollards that you can close up a street or you can open up a street. But the point is the street is flexible. And why do we have to take a hard line one way or the other? Let's be smarter than that. Let's recognize that it's a really important space for the city and for this country, and that we need to have some flexibility to be able to do what needs to be done as things evolve. That would be my position.
And what are your thoughts, Bernie?
I couldn't agree more with Steve. It needs to be a flexible space. I think the senator's ideas are excellent. Also, people live and work in the neighborhood. Deliveries have to be made. There's traffic, day-to-day traffic, but I think keeping our minds open to a flexible space that isn't one or the other is what the city should do.
Mm-hmm. And Sam, you need to recognize Spark Street Mall is not a drivable space either. And having lived in the downtown core, there are times when traffic needs to move. So flexible space.
Flexibility is going to be absolutely key. I think what sort of complicates it here, Steve, is the fact that it butts right up against a federal building, obviously our Parliament building, but yet it's a city street. That makes it a little bit more complicated.
Yep, it's a complicated city, and it's been that way for many, many years pre the convoy. All the convoy has done has illustrated that it's been a bit of a wake-up call that the world has changed somewhat. Doesn't mean we need to change our existence overnight. And in terms of what we've done in the past, we've succeeded quite comfortably in the past having Wellington open. One event should not cause such a serious, again, one way or the other decision to be made.
Mm-hmm. Bernie,
sorry, Sam, and to build on Steve's point, I remember I've lived in Ottawa most of my life, and I remember a time when we were able to drive right up to the bottom of the Peace Tower and drop people off, and that all changed after 9/11. Obviously, but we've modified, and it's just fine Parliament Hill now. We can do the same with Wellington.
Yeah, it's such an interesting time. I remember that too, Bernie, driving right up on Parliament Hill, and I look back on it now and I think, wow, that was such a different time. We have lots to talk about. We're going to continue our lunch today on City News with Bernie Forrestal and Steve Ball, and of course, you. Stay with us here on Rogers TV and City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
Salut tout le monde, je m'appelle Jessie Lindsay. Venez écouter mon spectacle Encore Ottawa 3 sur Rogers TV cette semaine. Hi everybody, come listen to my Encore Ottawa 3 show on Rogers TV this week. I hope you enjoy it.
My husband is a wonderful man and a great father when he's not drinking. I'm so angry he chooses alcohol over us. If he really loved us, he'd stop drinking, right? My counselor suggested I try Al-Anon. I didn't understand why. I'm not the one with the problem, but I'm glad I went. Do you worry about someone's drinking? You are not alone. Al-Anon or Alateen can help. Call 866-200-0033 or visit alanon.org/hope.
We fought our way through Italy and then headed for Amsterdam, sweeping for Germans along the way. Our worst fear was to catch a bullet in these last hours of the war.
I was 15 when the Nazis invaded the Netherlands. More than 100,000 Dutch Jews never came home. Our men were put into forced labor. By 1945, we were starving. The food drops gave us hope. And then the Canadians came.
Before Amsterdam, I couldn't have explained why we were there, all those years away from home, but the Dutch showed us why it mattered.
Papa wanted me to bring some soldiers home to thank them personally. And that's when I first saw Wilf. And I invited him over that afternoon.
Marguerite Blaise married Lieutenant Wilf Gildersleeve. They moved to Vancouver, where they raised 8 children. Today, the Dutch still remember the Canadians who liberated them.
Join me for Season 3 of Paula Roy's Favorite Foods. Whew, that was a lot. I think I need a nap.
Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
And it's lunchtime here on City News. We invite a number of people to the table to talk about those big news stories of the day. We're feasting on a number of big topics today. We want to talk a little bit about tourism today. Steve Ball, president of the Ottawa-Gatineau Hotel Association, is back with us, and Bernie Forrestal, a fundraising professional as well. Steve, I'll start with you. Tourism in this city, we really rely on it. Boy, we've missed it. What are the success factors for bringing it all back?
Well, you're absolutely right. In 2019, we had 11 million visitors, which is 11 times our population. So it's pretty critical to our economy. We took a little bit of a reputational shot with the convoy, and we need to work that. We're competing in a highly competitive global marketplace. So I think we need to keep the taps open on our sales and marketing strategies, and Ottawa Tourism does a wonderful job, and we're seeing the fruits of our efforts there. But we also need to look at our product development. We've got some opportunities around town with the destination building in the Byward Market and development on LeBreton Flats, and we need to ensure that, particularly as land gets harder and harder to find downtown, that what we build fits into our product mix, and it attracts a new audience of visitors to come to this beautiful G8 capital. We could also use some better air access to help us attract more meetings and conventions and major events. Pigeonhole between Montreal and Toronto hurts us from an international travel perspective through air. And the last thing I would say is we really need to pay attention to the delivery of the visitor experience. We've had some challenges in our core in the Byward Market with the unhoused community. We have some challenges with the federal government and their return to work and what that means for small business in the core. So it's really important we pay attention to that because it'll impact the impression people have when they leave after visiting us.
100%. Couldn't agree more there. Do you have anything to add, Bernie, to the success factors of bringing tourism back to Ottawa?
Absolutely. The thing about tourism is the people of Ottawa are so nice. We have a great service industry throughout the city. I think when people come here, they would feel welcomed. But as individuals, we can invite people to come and visit our city. Get people from out of town to come visit you and show them around. If you live here and you know how beautiful and wonderful Ottawa is, ask somebody to come and visit you and show them around yourself. I think there's a lot to share here.
And I think too that that whole convention conference piece is key as well, Steve, in terms of people maybe staying a couple of days or coming a couple of days early. I know that, when I have the opportunity to go and speak at in another province or another state, I tend to maybe add a day on either side to actually enjoy the city that I'm visiting.
Yeah, the buzzword people are throwing around right now is bleisure. So it's the combination of a business trip and some leisure components. And so exactly that, what you're saying, Sam. As we attract, bigger citywide conventions, we need to encourage family members to join. We need to tack on plus and pre and post activities, and we have so much product to be able to offer that. It's a wonderful experience when you get into the downtown core, and most of the TripAdvisor comments are positive relating to the experience. So it's how we package up and market our sales opportunities. Couldn't be more right.
And those staycations are so important as well, Bernie. I know you and your family love hanging around in Ottawa, but even just enjoying this city as a tourist, even though you live here, is lots of fun.
Absolutely. You go downtown with your camera or your phone. There's a beautiful picture and vista almost every 20 feet. So it's worth getting out, just even if you live here, and just enjoying our city. Like the Byward Market, for example. It's beautiful down there.
So our city getting ready for Winterlude, Steve. I know you've got your finger on the pulse of all things tourism.
Yeah, mostly I'm watching the Weather Network. We have some cold weather ahead of us. We need 10 days of between minus 10 and minus 20 overnight to get the 30 centimeters of ice we need. I don't know that we're going to make next weekend's Winterlude, but I'm optimistic for the following weekends. But I'll tell you, if you look at the Winterlude website, there's over 400 different activities. They've got the Snowflake Kingdom in Jacques Cartier Park. The ice carving championships are back. Like, there's so much to do that's non-canal related that there's every reason for people to come and enjoy Winterlude even without the canal. But my prediction is we're going to have it possibly by next weekend, but certainly the following. And
it's such an important time here in our city. Bernie, do you like skating on the canal when it's safe to do so?
Oh my gosh, I love it. I'll be out at least 2 or 3 times a year when it's frozen. I absolutely love it, and I do my best to avoid the cracks so I don't do face plants
yes.
as I'm zipping down the canal.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, and I used to work at the Ottawa Mission. One of the people I worked with used to skate to work, and I thought that was the most hilarious thing I'd ever heard. And that's so Canadian, Steve.
I did it all last year. I lived at Lansdowne Park, and I'd skate downtown 3-4 times a week.
Wow.
And there's nothing better. There's nothing more exhilarating going into a meeting after you've had a bit of a 20 or 25 minute workout. you actually can stay awake for the full hour. So
well, that speaks that speaks to the speed you would be going, and myself, I'd probably getting there for the end of the workday. I'd be like, I'm here now. I'm not a very fast skater, Steve, but that's awesome. We're celebrating something today, Bernie. Do you know what we're celebrating?
Oh, yes. I can't wait for this evening to celebrate.
How are you going to celebrate?
I think I might just have myself a slice of chocolate cake.
It's chocolate. I love looking up these days. So it's National Chocolate Cake Day. Do you make your own chocolate cake, Bernie?
I don't, but my wife Allison makes an excellent vegan chocolate cake. It doesn't compare as much to her apple cake, which is a family hit, but her chocolate cake is amazing.
Well, that's amazing. We'll have to watch out for a day where we celebrate apple cake. Steve, are you celebrating National Chocolate Cake Day?
I celebrate National Chocolate Cake Day every day.
Every day.
So,
I love it.
And what I'm looking for now is that absolute triple chocolate cake with 0 calories. That's the one I hunt around for. But no, I have a sweet tooth, so I don't need a day to enjoy chocolate.
There you go. And if you find that, you got to let Bernie and I know where you found that cake. Trust me. I remember the best chocolate.
I'll take you a slice of vegan cake, Steve.
There you go. I found the best chocolate cake I've ever had in my entire life. Unfortunately, it wasn't in this country. It was in Miami. And it was absolutely incredible. I still think about it like 10 years later. It was amazing. It was amazing.
I've never met a piece of chocolate cake I didn't like.
There you go. There you go. And Bernie, how are you spending your weekend?
Recovering from chocolate, International Chocolate Cake Day.
There you go. There you go. That's funny.
Maybe I'll do a sit-up.
There you go. Absolutely. Steve, I know how hard you work. Are you able to take a little time off this weekend?
Yeah, my daughter and I are going to do a little skiing up at Fortune. Well, she's a snowboarder, I'm a skier, so we love to spend winter time together doing that. And let it snow. The more snow, the better.
Let it snow, absolutely. Noah, our producer here, is heading up to Camp Fortune as well, so you might bump into him. Noah, you're everywhere.
I might see you there, Steve.
There you go. Noah's going to be there. I'm going to be heading away on a little Gal Pal weekend, which I'm looking forward to. It's good for the soul, Bernie, to do that kind of thing. I know you get away with your friends once in a while in the summertime.
Oh, absolutely. It's nice just to change your brain, just to get your mind out of your day-to-day, and if you're working from home, it's nice just to get out and hang out with friends and laugh.
Absolutely. I need a good chuckle, that's for sure. Thanks so much, guys, for joining us for the lunch. Appreciate the time of Steve Ball, president of the Ottawa-Gatineau Hotel Association. Very, very busy guy. Also a very busy guy. Bernie Forrestal, fundraising professional. Thanks for having lunch with me.
Thanks, Sam.
Appreciate it very much.
My pleasure, Sam.
We're getting ready for the business lunch. We're going to be meeting lots of different business owners. Really interesting gallery display happening this weekend. We're going to bring your attention to as well that you may want to check out. We're also going to talk, more chocolate cake. And we're also going to talk about the Manor Lounge opening. Lots to talk about on the business lunch on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Hello, my name is Sean Duhame. And this is the Sean Duhame Trio. I hope you enjoyed.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
For 25 years, you've been helping to make our roads safer by doing the right thing. You've been the designated driver, you've stayed over, called home, you've called a cab or a friend, and planned ahead. Let's keep doing the right thing. Support sober driving by getting yourself and your friends home safely.
Do the right thing.
Visit ArriveAlive.org to find out more. Arrive Alive. Drive sober.
Here we go.
Hey, going back in, okay?
It's a new season of The New Fly Fisher on Rogers TV.
20 bucks. 20 bucks. We're on the line for 20 bucks.
On the next episode of Simply Cooking by Chef, I'm joined by my friend Neil from Ottawa Valley Meats. Tune in to see what we're grilling up on the barbecue.
Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 1011 everywhere.
It is Friday, January 27. Good afternoon. I am Damilola Unime. Right now in Ottawa, -8 with light snow. In Smith Falls, it is -6. And here's what's making news this hour. Heading into the weekend and the first year anniversary of when the so-called Freedom Convoy protesters rode into the capital, the city says it will not tolerate a repeat of last year's occupation. A special parking restriction goes into effect in the downtown core tomorrow into Sunday, and there'll be extra bylaw officers patrolling the core for offences ranging from public urination and defecation to unnecessary noise. Officers will also be on the lookout for parking violations, fires, fireworks, and building of illegal structures. Amid the killing of a black man by 5 black police officers in Memphis, Tennessee, the Ottawa Police is offering support to members of the black community and other marginalized groups in the capital. A statement from the force saying the death of Tyree Nichols at the hands of police officers is inexcusable and deeply troubling. Ottawa Police is joining calls for justice and supporting the steps being taken to fully investigate the incident and hold the individuals responsible accountable. They say police needs to be held to the highest standards of conduct and are committed to ensuring everyone in our community is safe and feels safe. Politicians in charge of provincial liquor laws aren't moving very fast to adopt or promote newly updated guidelines that advise Canadians to dial back their alcohol intake. The ministers responsible tell the Canadian press they're waiting for Ottawa's lead on whether to slap warning labels on products. New guidance prepared by the Canadian Centre on Substance Use states there is a moderate risk of harm for those who consume between 3 and 6 drinks a week. Stats show 2/3 of Canadians who drink are in the guidelines' riskier ranges. City News time is 12:31. I am Damilola Unime. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, as we've mentioned a few times today on City News, we are hit that 1-year milestone of the so-called Freedom Convoy. Many people are reflecting about what that time was like in our city. And Paul Azzolo, a photographer, is reflecting in a very unique way. And Paul joins me now. Hi, Paul.
Hi, Sam. Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome. Paul, talk to me a little bit about how you spent that time that the convoy was here in the capital.
Well, when it first started, I was in my home in Montreal, and I kept hearing news reports about this huge 50-kilometer wall of trucks heading for Ottawa. So that's how it initially sparked my interest.
And as a photographer, capturing those moments in time to not only capture them for that moment, but to look back on them. You came to the Capitol. You took a lot of photographs of that time. What was it like, Paul?
It was kind of a surreal moment. It felt really dystopian. As a photographer, I always search for hidden beauty in a world that often goes unnoticed. And when I came to Ottawa, I found that similar beauty in the spirit of those Canadian truckers. There was something kind of romantic to seeing these primal men and women getting together to defy the government and stand up for what they believe. And I just wanted to convey this more human side of the truckers.
Mm-hmm. And what was it like? Did they like you photographing them?
Well, yeah, I think I was lucky because I had this. I decided to shoot them with this old Polaroid camera I had. In fact, I was taking pictures of just the trucks by themselves, and this one guy saw me taking pictures and ran up to me and asked me, "Oh, would you mind taking a picture of my truck?" I'm like, "Sure." So instead of using my big camera, I just took out my Polaroid. Then I signed it for him, and then I took another, and he signed it for me, and that's when it all came together.
Oh, so interesting. Because we've heard so many different versions about what it was down, what it was like down there, right? Some people were saying, especially in that first weekend, that there was a lot of Canadian pride and it was a very different tone. But as the days went on, it really changed in many ways as different players sort of arrived here in the capital. Did you stay the whole time, Paul?
I was there for, I think I arrived maybe the third or fourth day. The convoy arrived, and then I was there through when the police came in and broke everything up.
And what have you done with all the photographs that you've taken, Paul, during that time?
So, like I said, I shot everything on Polaroid. Many of the images are signed by the truckers themselves with a little message often. And then I ended up scanning them, and then I worked on them on my computer, and I ended up making these beautiful carbon prints from the originals. And that's what I have on an exhibit at the Art Plus Gallery.
And tell me a little bit about why you decided to remember and really this milestone in that way.
Well, when I left for Ottawa originally, I was very apprehensive of going. I'd heard news reports of violence and white extremists, and I was really apprehensive. But then it wasn't before long that I realized how different things really were. People were jovial, festive, and friendly. Everyone was saying hello, smiling, laughing, and I hadn't seen any of that since before the pandemic started. It was kind of a breath of fresh air. So then I eventually started talking to the truckers, and I realized that those people really weren't much different than myself. They were just ordinary Canadians that were tired of being confined, afraid of what the long-term side effects of the vaccine might be. They just wanted to return to a normal life.
Mm-hmm. And let me ask you, have you heard from any of them? Do they know that you're putting on this exhibit?
Well, I was able to reach out to a few, notably this guy named Chris, who has a bee farm in Northern Ontario, and he's the one who had come out to me and with the idea of doing these Polaroids. So yeah, I've stayed in touch with a few of them, and I think a few will be there on Saturday to see the exhibit.
Oh, that's interesting. And Paul, I can't help but note about the Polaroid. I mean, we think about a Polaroid, we think about probably the 70s, maybe the 80s, a way of taking photographs. Was there something sort of beautiful about taking them with a Polaroid?
Well, I think it really fit the subject perfectly. I mean, they had a really rough and tumble look, like really gritty, pulpy. Like the truckers, all those walls of trucks, and like a lot of them were really old, and it reminded me of like a Tarantino movie or even something from Stephen King. Like, I don't know if you remember those movies, Christine, mm-hmm. The Possessed Car, and Maximum Overdrive with the trucks. And it just had this really awesome, like gritty feel to it.
And it's so interesting that you're showing them at a gallery on Sussex Street. Is there something sort of ironic there?
Yes, I would definitely agree. In fact, it was really close. One of my favorite images is of this truck I named Mad Max. That must have been a truck that came out. It feels like it came out of like another century, and it had this big duck on the hood that reminded me of that Tarantino movie, Death Proof. Kurt Russell had that same duck right on front of the hood, and it makes quite a statement.
I've seen a few of the Ottawa Citizen had done a piece on about this, and I'm taking a look at some of the images here, and I see that a lot of them are in that black and white. Was that another sort of nod to what you were feeling?
Yeah, well, most of my career I've been doing black and white imagery, and even with the Polaroid, I was able to get some black and white film for the camera.
Was this a way of you giving another voice to the truckers, do you think?
I think so. I think, at a certain point, I kind of felt bad for them because, I would walk around and most of them were just hardworking, decent Canadians that just wanted to go back to a normal life. And I felt the press originally, they treated them as extremists and homophobes and racists, and I really didn't see any of that myself.
And when you sort of saw the convoy come to a conclusion, we know the mounted police were there. We know obviously different police forces brought in from across the country. What was it like to sort of see the convoy end in the way that it did?
Yeah, it did. It did end. It could have ended better. I don't want to minimize what the people of Ottawa went through. I know it was hell, especially that first week with all the nonstop honking. It was kind of insane. And I think we can all agree that it definitely dragged on for far too long, and it is a shame that it degenerated like it did. Mm-hmm. But I also think it's time for all of us to heal and unite as Canadians. I mean, for the last 2 years, we've all been afraid, afraid of COVID, afraid of the vaccine. But I don't think anyone was there with any malicious intents. We just have we all have our own ways of reacting to fear. And now that we're finally moving past the pandemic, I truly hope Canadians can get away from all the divisiveness and come together. I think that's the message I really want people to get from my exhibit.
And Paul, let me ask you, for many residents, as you've alluded to, it was a very challenging time. Many businesses, the Rideau Centre closed for a month. Who are you thinking is going to show up to look at these photographs? Do you think that there's an opportunity here to maybe move forward and heal and maybe for residents or businesses to see these photographs in another light and maybe think about the truckers in another way?
Oh, absolutely. I really think, and I think people. I mean, we had a pretty good turnout last night, despite the weather, and I was really surprised to see a lot of residents were there and really appreciated and were much more open-minded than I expected. So in general, I've gotten a lot of positive feedback. So I hope people can come and enjoy it and also be open-minded and think of think about what unites us. And I think we can all agree it was fear, fear of the vaccine, fear of the pandemic, fear of COVID. But I think we need to all unite.
Are you selling any of the prints or anything, Paul?
Yes, they're all available for sale. I listed them at a modest price, so I think they're affordable to everyone, even people who don't usually buy art.
Appreciate your time today, Paul. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. It was my pleasure, and I hope to see you at the exhibit.
I would love to. Paul Ozello joining us today, a photographer. That Fringe exhibit is taking place at Art Plus Gallery on Sussex Drive. This city needs to heal. There's no two ways about it. So this is one of the steps that someone's taken to try and see some healing in this capital. When we come back on a little bit of a lighter note, we're going to talk a little chocolate cake. Stay with us here on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
Salut tout le monde, je m'appelle Jessie Lindsay. Venez écouter mon spectacle Encore Ottawa 3 sur Rogers TV cette semaine. Hi everybody, come listen to my Encore Ottawa 3 show on Rogers TV this week. I hope you enjoy it.
On Friday's Daytime Ottawa fitness expert, Tony Greco joining me on the show, so I better start my stretching now because I'm sure he's going to be putting me through a workout. But we're also going to talk to him why he decided to rebrand. Also tell you about a new local business. It is called Neverly Made. We'll give you all the details on what they offer. And we'll tell you about a brand new charity that's just started here in Ottawa. All that and more on Friday's Daytime Ottawa.
Think it's okay to drive high? Think again. Drug-impaired driving is as illegal as drunk driving, and in Ontario, the penalties are the same. If police suspect you're driving under the influence of drugs of any kind, or a combination of drugs and alcohol, and you fail a roadside test, your license will be suspended immediately for up to 30 days. You'll pay a penalty of $198. And you can be charged with a criminal offense of impaired driving, the same as alcohol. Driving high is never okay.
At Celebrate Ottawa, we love showing you something a little different. We showcase remarkable people highlighting the city's diversity in arts, culture, sports, and nature. We will show you features that prove Ottawa is a vibrant and exciting city. We'll entertain you and we'll even teach you new things. Join me, your host, Lila Grine, as we explore and celebrate Ottawa.
Join me for Season 3 of Paula Roy's Favorite Foods. Whew, that was a lot. I think I need a nap.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Thank you so much for spending time with us here on City News. We appreciate it very much. We know that, of course, today is a very big day in the world of bakers. We're trying to connect with a bakery and get to chat with them today. But we've got lots of great opportunities today to speak with business owners. We're going to speak with Steve Wilson, the partner and chief marketing officer for the New Manor Lounge opening. It's going to be very exciting. I received some information a little while ago, and we're excited to bring all of that exciting opportunity to you. Maybe you can check it out. It's going to be opening, big opening celebration on Wednesday, February the 1st. I can't believe February is just around the corner, certainly coming very, very quickly. It's great to get caught up on the business lunch, and we say all the time that if you have a business you want to bring to our attention, do that. Reach out to us, to myself, to our producers, and Steve Wilson did just that, partner and chief marketing officer. Hi, Steve.
Hey, how are you?
Well, you have some really exciting news, and it's hot off the press. What's happening on February the 1st at Manor Lounge?
Well, thanks so much, and thanks for having me on the show. Really appreciate it. We are opening a brand new entertainment facility right in the heart of downtown Ottawa at 292 Elgin Street, formerly Hooley's, formerly Bravo, if you go back in the day, or the Bytown Tavern, and we've basically taken over the entire facility. It's 11,000 square feet, and we have an upscale casual dining lounge, as well as 7 escape experiences, a bocce ball court, Darts Reimagined, which is a modern twist on classic darts, as well as shuffleboard, foosball, an amazing offering of cocktails, craft beer, and wine, as well as an amazing offering from our kitchen. And we're now open, but we're celebrating our official grand opening on February 1st.
Well, it sounds like people will never want to leave, Steve.
That is the plan.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we are truly trying to reconnect people with their crews and reclaim their social lives. It's been a couple of really hard years on people, and our offerings are designed to get you off your phone, to be a genuine version of yourself, to have fun with friends and family, to eat, drink, and be merry. And that's what we're here to do, and we can't wait to do it.
Well, that's a great objective for a business as well, and in terms of reclaiming some of that social time. We've all got maybe just a little too used to staying at home. Steve, tell us where the idea came from.
Sure. It's actually an evolution on our original brand, which was Escape Manor, which we started here in Ottawa in 2014. And that was disrupting the entertainment industry, sort of shaking it up from the original nightclubs and pubs and bowling that folks were accustomed to. And it really took off, even more so than our wildest dreams. And we couldn't build our escape rooms or our locations quick enough, to the point where we had 6 in Ottawa, and then we ended up opening in Toronto, Hamilton, Regina, Saskatoon, Brisbane, Australia, as well as partnering with the Diefenbunker and Carp, the Canadian Museum of Nature here in Ottawa, the Stormont Dundas Glengarry Jail in Cornwall, and beyond. And that was our escape rooms that was really driving all of that attention. And as we grew into bigger cities and bigger locations, we started offering food and beverage. So our Toronto location, for example, is right on King West, between Blue Jays Way and Spadina, and it's 15,000 square feet. It has an axe throwing arena, has 6 escape experiences, a full restaurant, bar, lounge, DJs, entertainment, you name it. We did the same thing in Hamilton a year later, and now we've brought it back to Ottawa, which is where we're all from, and this is now our flagship location. It has all the bells and whistles and then some, and we're super stoked about it.
Well, congratulations, Steve. That's wonderful. I love hearing these kinds of stories. For someone that maybe has never been in an escape room, tell us what the escape room is all about.
Certainly, yeah. We actually try and call them escape experiences. Now, I still say escape room because the folks that know. But really, it's an experience where you've been told a story and put into a situation. Sometimes it's of peril, sometimes it's comedic, and you have to solve problems with your friends using spatial reasoning, logic, and obviously teamwork in order to get out in the allotted time before the impending imaginary danger occurs to you. And it's just been a really, really fun way for families to bond, friendships to gel, and really teams to build. We do corporate groups by day, and we do, leisure groups by night. And it's just a really, really fun new way to be entertained and to entertain yourself and to see some really neat true colors of your friends and family and colleagues that you wouldn't know exist until you're put to the test in a perilous situation.
Oh, I love it so much. And when can people start booking those experiences?
Right away. We did some friends and family work over December, right around the holiday. It's a great time to open. And it went so well that we have been open for a couple of weeks now, kind of quietly. And the big bang is going to be on the 1st when we do our grand opening and we have all the media and the mayor and everybody out there cutting ribbons and so forth. But we are open now. We're open for lunch today and dinner tonight, cocktails, lounge. We've got about 230 folks reserved for tonight. And we're off to the races already. So you can visit manorlounge.ca. And all of our reservations will pop up there in real time for the escapes, for a dinner or lunch reservation, or if you want to reserve our bocce ball court or one of our darts and reimagine lanes, it's all there for you.
Well, that's fantastic. I'm known to win a few bocce games, so there you go. I might have to check that out for sure.
I love the challenge.
And when we think about this city, we just got off the phone chatting with Steve Ball, of course, the president of the Ottawa-Gatineau Hotel Association, really trying to bring people back to this city from a tourism perspective. This just seems to be a little bit of an extra bonus for them, Steve, they may not be expecting.
Absolutely. We're a very tourist-driven operation, and I actually sit on the board of directors for Ottawa Tourism with Steve Ball. We're good buds, and we're very, very tourist-minded people, and that's why we built this, and that's exactly what we're looking to do with all of our offerings. We want to drive people. We're super proud of Ottawa. That article that came out a couple of days ago that said we were, a city that I forgot, I just cringed because it's so not the truth. I've lived abroad numerous times, and every time I come back to Ottawa, I couldn't be more proud of the progression and how amazing and what a beautiful city we have and all the great offerings we have, and we're proud to contribute to it. That's why we do what we do.
And you're in such a great location. I mean, right down there on Elgin Street. I mean, Elgin equals fun, right?
Absolutely. From the Sens Mile to Patio Central this summer, it's just going to be amazing. We've got a 120-seat patio that we're going to be working on after we get the doors open with the official grand opening. Wow. And it is just a buzzing environment. It went through a few years, obviously, of construction woes and then pandemic and then trucker convoy, but now everybody is ready to have a good time, and we're seeing it. We're seeing people coming out in droves. They've saved money from not traveling, and they're excited to reconnect with their crews and reclaim that social life. And Elgin is definitely going to be a hub for entertainment and fun this summer, this spring, and it is even so right now.
There you go. Well, congratulations, Steve, and I hope you have a great grand opening and welcome in everybody here from Ottawa and all those visiting.
Thank you so much, Sam. We look forward to seeing you on the 1st, and have a great weekend.
Look forward to it.
Thank you.
Steve Wilson joining us, partner and chief marketing officer for Manor Lounge, that big opening happening, of course, on Wednesday, February the 1st. You can start booking all those exciting experiences, which is fantastic. We know this week has been very busy on the business lunch, talking all things business. And in many ways, the center of our city, that Wellington Street, such a big part of the business story. And Jason White, our veteran anchor here at City News. Jason, this has been the story this week.
Yeah. Definitely. A lot of people quite passionate about what should be done about Wellington. Keep it closed to vehicles, leave it as a pedestrian cyclist only space. No, open it up, bring the vehicles back in. So a lot of talk about that one this week for sure. So I think a lot of people are eager to see how this plays out, because it sounds from the discussions that were held at the Transportation transportation committee at City Hall that, we're going to do this for now. We're going to see how this goes, kind of thing. Bring in the vehicles temporarily, but also try to preserve some space for a cyclist track to make things safer for cyclists. I don't know if you've ever tried cycling downtown, Sam. It's not my favorite idea of a safe, chill Sunday afternoon, cycling with traffic. So a lot of people keen to see things done to make it safer to cycle through the downtown and to get around.
And we're seeing, as we expected, Jason, so many different perspectives on this. We heard from a senator this week, had lots of great suggestions. And of course, city councilors all have suggestions. The federal government, I think this is really going to put a pressure on the federal government, knowing that the area will be opened up after March 1st. I think the discussions and those meetings will be taking place and a lot of serious attention being placed on this in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, because the federal government, keep in mind, they wanted to, the sentiment on the Hill seems to be that the Fed should take over Wellington and keep it closed to vehicles because security. So with the city opening it up, it might be interesting to see whether that spurs the federal government to act. No, we're just going to swoop in and take this from you so that it doesn't open up. Also, you mentioned about that senator, the senator who appeared at the Transportation Committee. I think that's the first time I can ever recall seeing a parliamentarian appear as a public delegation at a committee meeting. So for, it's a minor City Hall fun trivia fact for nerds who geek out on City Hall stuff like me.
Right.
But that was kind of interesting to see. And also, it was, I don't know if uplifting is the right word, but I think it was a positive to see the openness and collaboration, because I think a lot of people don't really get, well, what the heck do senators do? And the senator was speaking. I'm blanking on his name, of course. That I'm
Andrew
on the radio.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. So he was there and saying, like, look, I have a weird role. I'm not really part of the government. I'm not part of a party. All senators are independent now. But if I can help facilitate things and bring people together, so there was an offer to a city councilor, I think Ariel Troster, come join me for a sandwich on Monday. I'm not being facetious. I actually am interested, he says, in getting people together because that's how you figure things out. Like, endless emails and back and forth. I mean, anyone who works in an office knows this. It just gets to be nonsense after a while. Okay, let's get our keisters in the same room. Let's sit down and hash this out and come up with something that actually works and meets everybody's needs. So I thought that openness and spirit of collaborative spirit was really neat to see.
And if there's a word I need to hear on the radio on a Friday, it's the word keister. I don't think I've ever heard that word on the radio before.
Oh, I say lots of words you never hear on the radio, Sam.
That's fantastic. Jason, it's been such a challenging year for so many. We're coming up on that 1 year. I remember you and I, Jason, looking at each other saying this so-called freedom convoy that was coming this way, this was going to be a big story.
Yeah. And I think that was why it was... I don't know. I think frustrating, maybe one of the words you could use to describe it. A lot of residents hearing the police and hearing leadership. Well, we didn't know it was going to turn. Really? Because it seemed everybody who lived in the downtown area who had eyes and ears on the situation understood that these people were coming, and they said they were coming and they weren't going to leave until they got what they had, their demands that they had set out in their manifesto. This is going to be one of those things you look back on and for years after, talking with your kids and grandkids, and I remember when, definitely.
Well, maybe you and I will have our keisters here 10 years from now, and we'll be talking about the 11th anniversary. Thank you so much, Jason White, for spending time with us today. Of course, our veteran anchor here at City News, and thank you so much for tuning in. Of course, all week long, the news doesn't stop. Jason and Parushka are going to take you through the afternoon. Stay with us here on City News.
You've been listening to the Sam Laprade Show.
Tune in again for local news and community views on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.